The sea is warm tonight, warmer than any sea you have ever known, and it holds you the way a hand holds water that does not want to be held. There is no shore in sight. There is no need for one. The surface lies far above you, a soft ceiling of moving light, and the light comes down in long, slow columns that bend and lean as the swell passes overhead. You are not falling, you are not swimming. You are simply here, suspended in a green and golden quiet, 70 million years before the first human eye will ever open to wonder at any of this. Below you the water deepens into a colour with no name, a blue that has folded itself so many times it has gone nearly to grey, and the cold of that depth never quite reaches you here. Here, near the top of the world's oceans, the temperature is gentle, almost bathwater soft, and the salt holds you up without effort. Tiny things drift past your eyes, smaller than dust, catching the light and letting it go. They are alive. The whole sea is alive. In a way the sea will never quite be alive again. Somewhere beneath you, a shadow moves. It is long and unhurried, and it does not disturb the water so much as persuade it to part. You feel the pressure of its passing before you see anything at all, a slow swell that lifts you a hand's width and sets you down again. There is nothing to fear in it. Whatever moves down there moves with the patience of something that has never once been late, never once been hungry enough to rush. It turns. It is gone. The columns of light sway and settle. This is the world of the great sea lizard. This is the kingdom of the mosasaur, ruler of the last warm oceans of the age of reptiles. And tonight you have come to drift through it slowly, with nothing asked of you, and nowhere you need to be. Let the warm water take the weight of your body. Let your breathing slow to match the rise and fall of the swell. There is so much time here. There is more time than you can spend. Close your eyes inside the dream, even as they stay closed in your bed, and let yourself sink, gently, into the long blue evening of a sea that vanished before the mountains you know were ever raised. We are going down together, slowly, into the warm dark, and nothing down there will hurry us at all. Let us take a moment, before we go any deeper, simply to settle. You have arrived in the Late Cretaceous, the final long chapter of the age of reptiles, somewhere near 70 million years before your own time. The continents you would recognize are not yet in their places. They are still drifting toward the shapes you learned as a child, still pulling apart along seams of fire deep beneath the floor of the sea. Where there will one day be dry plains and quiet towns, there is, for now, only water, warm and shallow and wide. The world in this age is a warmer world than yours. There are no ice caps at the poles, no white crowns on the top and bottom of the planet. The seas have risen high over the edges of the land, flooding the low places, drowning whole interiors of continents under shallow tropical water. A great arm of ocean has cut one of the northern landmasses clean in two, running from the warm southern seas all the way up toward the pole, and across that flooded plain the sunlight reaches down through water that is rarely deeper than a few hundred feet. It is a sea you could almost wade across, if you were a giant and had 1,000 years to do it in. You are floating in that kind of sea now. Feel how the light behaves here. Near the surface it is bright and broken, scattered into shifting coins of gold that slide across everything below. A little deeper, where you drift, the gold has cooled to green, and the green has the softness of moss, of old glass, of the inside of a wave just before it breaks. Deeper still, the green gives way to blue, and the blue, eventually, to a dark that is not frightening but only restful, the colour of sleep itself. There is a smell to this water, though you cannot quite smell it in a dream, a faint mineral sweetness, the breath of a sea thick with living things. And there is sound. Not the silence you might expect, but a low and constant murmur, the click and tick of countless small creatures, the distant boom of the swell against some far reef, the slow groan of deep water turning over far below. It is the sound a great sleeping thing makes when it breathes. You are inside that breathing now. In this sea live the mosasaurs, and they are the reason we have come. You may have heard them called sea dinosaurs, but that is a gentle mistake, and we will set it gently aside. The mosasaurs were not dinosaurs at all. They were lizards, true lizards, cousins of the monitor lizards and the snakes that still move across the warm parts of your own world. Long ago their ancestors lived on land and walked on 4 ordinary legs, And then, over many millions of years, they did a remarkable and patient thing. They went back to the sea. We will follow that long return together, in time. Slowly, we will watch 4 ordinary legs become 4 smooth paddles. We will watch a tail learn to swim. We will watch a creature built for walking learn instead to fly through water, until it became the most complete and graceful ruler these warm oceans ever knew. But there is no hurry. None of this happened quickly, and we will not rush through it now. The mosasaurs had the whole length of the Cretaceous to become themselves, and tonight we have the whole length of the night to drift among them. As you float here, let me ask only one thing of you, and it is the easiest thing in the world. Let yourself be heavy. Let the bed beneath you be the warm water that holds you up. There is nothing you need to carry into this sea. The day you have just lived can stay behind you on the shore you cannot see. Out here there are no messages, no clocks, no small bright urgent things. There is only the long blue evening and the slow shapes moving through it, and a voice telling you a story you are allowed to fall asleep inside of. Far below you, the seabed is a pale country of soft white mud, made of the shells of creatures too small to see, settling down through the water like the gentlest snow that never stops falling. We will visit that floor before the night is through. We will visit the drifting shelled creatures that turn slowly through the open water like the hands of a clock with all the time in the world. We will meet the great turtles, the long-necked swimmers, and the sea lizards themselves, the small and the vast, the swift and the slow. And we will end, in time, with a quiet story of how, ages later, the first of them was found again, sleeping in white stone beneath a hill in a country that did not yet have a name. But all of that is still ahead of us, soft and unhurried, like the tide that has not yet decided to turn. For now there is only this, the warmth, the green light, the slow rise and fall of the swell lifting you and setting you down like a cradle the size of the sea. Breathe in slowly, breathe out more slowly still, and let us begin to drift down, together, into the warm and ancient water, where the great lizards swim and nothing at all, is in any kind of hurry. Before we begin to sink, let yourself grow used to this warm water, the way you might grow used to a bath as you ease down into it, slowly, until it no longer feels like anything separate from you at all. The sea around you is the temperature of comfort itself, neither warm enough to notice nor cool enough to trouble, simply the perfect, easeful warmth of a thing that holds you exactly right. It presses gently on you from every side, evenly, kindly, the way a heavy soft blanket presses, taking a little of your weight, then a little more, then more, until you are not so much floating in it as being held by it, cradled in it, dissolved softly into it. There is nowhere the warm water ends and you begin. Let that be so. Let the edges of you soften into the warm sea, and let the holding be complete. Notice how the light reaches you here, soft and green and full of slow movement, falling from the bright surface far above in long wavering columns that sway gently as the swell passes overhead. It is not the harsh white light of the day you have left behind. It is filtered and gentled by all the water above you, turned to the colour of deep cool shade in a summer wood, the colour of green glass, the colour of rest. It moves slowly across the floor below and across the drifting shapes around you, a soft shifting dapple of brightness and dimness, never still, never sharp, always gentle. Let your eyes rest in that wavering green light. There is nothing in it bright enough to hold you awake, nothing sudden, nothing sharp, only the slow soft sway of brightness through deep water, the most restful light there is. And listen, one more time, to the great quiet of this place, for it is a quiet you can sink into the way you sink into the warm water. The sharp, small noises of the dry world cannot reach you here. Sound moves slow and muffled through the sea, rounded and softened, stripped of all its edges, and what remains is only the long, low murmur of the swell and the faint, far rustle of slow life in the green. Sounds so gentle they are nearly silence. Sounds that ask nothing of you and mean only peace. This is the quiet the great lizards lived in, the deep, soft hush of the warm sea, and it is yours now too, to rest in, to disappear into, to let close over you like the warm green water. Breathe in slowly and draw the quiet in. Breathe out more slowly still and let it fill you, soft and deep and complete. If you enjoy listening to sleepy prehistoric dinosaur stories like this, subscribe I post stories like this weekly. And now, let yourself sink a little deeper, and we will go on. Drift with me now, just below the surface, where the water is the temperature of a slow afternoon, and let us understand the sea you have come to rest in. This is not the cold and bottomless ocean of your own world. This is a shallow tropical sea, warm from its bright skin all the way down to its pale floor, and it lies spread across the drowned middle of a continent like a sheet of water poured across a table and left to find its own edges. In some places you could swim for a whole day and never pass over water deeper than the height of a few tall trees stacked one upon another. The warmth is the first thing to know about this age, because the warmth is the mother of everything that lives here. The whole planet is gentler now, milder, softer at its poles. There is no ice to speak of anywhere upon the earth. The far north and the far south, where in your time there would be white silence and bitter wind, are instead green and temperate, brushed by mild rains, breathing out warm air that the great ocean currents carry toward the equator and back again. The sea drinks this warmth and holds it, and because warm water rises and spreads, the oceans have climbed up over the land. Feel how shallow this makes the world. The sunlight, which in a deep ocean would be swallowed within the first 100 feet and lost, here reaches almost everywhere. It pours down through the green water and touches the seabed itself, so that even the floor of the sea is a lit place, a place where things can grow. There are few true deserts of darkness in this inland ocean. Almost the whole of it is a garden, fed by light from above, and that endless light is the slow engine that has made the water thick with life. Let your eyes adjust to the colour of it. Near the surface the green is bright and restless, full of the broken gold of the sun. Where you float, a little below, the green has settled and deepened, and small living motes drift through it in their countless millions, rising and turning and sinking again. They are too small for you to truly see, but together they tint the whole sea, the way a single drop of milk will cloud a glass of water. This is the living haze of the open ocean, the pasture on which everything larger quietly grazes. There is a current here, slow and warm, and it moves you without your trying. You can feel it as a long, patient pressure along one side of your body, a hand that is in no hurry, easing you forward through the green. Give in to it. There is nothing to swim against tonight. The current knows where it is going, down across the flooded plain, around the soft edges of drowned hills, and it will carry you gently for as long as you care to let it. This is what the great sea creatures have learned to do above all else. They do not fight the water. They make the water do the work. Above you, the surface ceiling shivers and gleams. From below, it looks like a sheet of hammered silver and gold, endlessly remaking itself, never the same shape twice. When the swell rolls past, the whole ceiling tilts and slides, and the columns of sunlight lean over with it, sweeping across the green like the slow searchlights of something kind. You could watch that ceiling for an hour and never tire of it, the way you might watch a fire, or rain on a window, or the breathing of someone you love who has fallen asleep before you. Now let your attention sink lower, down past where you drift, into the deeper green below. The water grows cooler there, but the cool is gentle, never sharp. The light dims by slow degrees, gold to green to a soft and dusty blue. And down at the very bottom, far below, the seabed waits, pale as the moon, a country of fine white mud that we will walk across together before the night is through. For now it is only a suggestion, a paleness sensed more than seen, the floor of the whole warm world lying patiently beneath everything. This sea has a shape, though from inside it you cannot see the shape, only feel the slow logic of its currents. It is long, far longer than it is wide, a great flooded corridor of water running the length of a continent, joining the warm seas of the south to the cooler seas of the north. Through that corridor the water moves in vast unhurried wheels, warm water climbing up from the south, cooler water sliding down to meet it, the two of them turning against each other so slowly that a single turn might take more years than a creature could count. You are riding the outer edge of one of those great wheels now, and because the warm water and the cool water meet here, the sea is rich. Where they brush against one another, they stir the deep nutrients up toward the light, and where nutrients meet light, life answers. That is why this corridor of sea is not a barren place but a crowded one, thick from top to bottom with drifting, swimming, gliding, sinking life. It is one of the most generous seas the earth will ever make, and the great lizards have grown vast inside its generosity. the way a child grows tall in a house where there is always enough to eat. You might wonder what the air is like, far above the silver ceiling, though you need not rise to find out. It is warm and damp and heavy, an air that smells of salt and green and rain that is always about to fall. Great clouds pile up over the warm water in the long afternoons, towering and slow, and in the evenings they let down soft curtains of rain that patter against the surface and are swallowed without a sound. The creatures of the sea feel these rains only as a faint hiss far overhead, a sound like a held breath, before the surface goes smooth and gleaming once again. There are no gulls here, no familiar cries. The sky belongs to other wings, leathery and wide, the great gliding reptiles that ride the warm air above the water and watch the surface for the flash of fish. We will meet them too, in time, but from where you drift, below the silver ceiling, they are only the occasional dark cross sliding across the light, here and gone, soundless, untroubled, as much a part of the slow machinery of this world as the current that carries you, and the rain that falls and is forgotten. Let yourself notice how little urgency there is in any of it. Nothing in this sea moves faster than it must. The current is slow, the light is slow. The great wheels of warm and cool water turn so slowly that they are almost still. Even the hunters, when they come, move with a terrible patience, a calm that has no fear in it because it has never needed any. This is a world that has forgotten how to hurry, if it ever knew, and simply by floating here, you are learning to forget it too. The shape of your own breathing has already begun to change. You may not have noticed, but somewhere in the last few minutes your breath has lengthened and softened to match the rise and fall of the swell. In as the water lifts you, out as it sets you down, in and out, slow and slow and slower. This is the rhythm of the sea, and your body knows it without being taught, the way it knew it long ago, before you were born, when you floated in a warmth not so different from this one. Far off, at the very edge of what you can sense, something large is moving through the green. You cannot see it yet. You feel it only as a change in the water, a long, smooth pressure that arrives and passes and is gone, the wake of something that swam by a while ago and is already far away. It was not hunting. It was only travelling, going wherever the great ones go in the warm evenings, unhurried, certain, at home. In a little while we will follow it. In a little while we will learn what it was. But not yet. For now, simply rest in the fact of the warm sea. Let it be enough to know that you are held, that the water is kind, that the light comes down in soft green columns, and the current carries you and asks nothing in return. The whole vast living machinery of this ancient ocean turns slowly around you, and you are a small, warm part of it, drifting, breathing, sinking by gentle degrees toward the deeper quiet below. This is the sea that made the mosasaurs possible. Without all this warmth, all this light, all this patient generosity of food and space, the great sea lizards could never have grown into what they became. They are the children of this gentle ocean, shaped by it across millions of years, and to understand them at all we had first to understand the water that held them. Now we do. Now we can begin to look more closely at the creatures themselves. So let the warm current carry you onward, a little deeper, a little slower, toward the long shape we felt passing in the green. There is no need to reach it tonight, no need to reach anything at all. The reaching will happen on its own, the way sleep happens, the way the tide turns, without effort, without will, simply because the time for it has quietly come. Breathe in with the lifting swell, breathe out as it lets you down, and drift with me now toward the body that was built, across an age of patient water, for nothing in the world but this warm and weightless sea. Let yourself settle a little deeper into this warmth, for there is no hurry, and the sea has all the time in the world to hold you. Feel how the water is not cold the way you might expect deep water to be, but warm, warm all the way down, warm as a bath that someone drew for you long ago and never let cool. This is a hothouse world, a world without ice at either pole, a world where even the far places are mild and the near places are warm as breath, and the sea has soaked up all that gentle heat and holds it, evenly, kindly, through every layer from the bright top to the dim and quiet floor. There is nowhere in this sea that would chill you. There is only the long, even warmth, holding you the way warm hands hold something precious. Listen, too, to how quiet it is, here in the warm, shallow sea. Sound moves softly through the water, muffled and slow, and the loud, sharp noises of the dry world have no place here. There is the long, low murmur of the swell, rising and falling, the oldest and gentlest of all sounds. There is the soft hiss of sand shifting somewhere far below, and the faint click and rustle of small living things going about their slow business in the green. And under all of it there is the great silence of the deep water, vast and patient and calm. The silence that has been here since the sea was young, the silence into which you may let all your own noise and clatter dissolve, softly, until you are as quiet inside as the warm sea is around you. Think of how wide this sea is, and let the wideness ease you. It is not a small enclosed pool, but a great shallow ocean spreading away in every direction, over drowned plains and gentle rises, a warm, flooded country with no edges that matter, reaching past the curve of the world. You could drift in it for days and never come to a wall or a shore that mattered, only more warm green water, more soft light from above, more gentle floor below. There is room here, endless room enough for every great lizard that ever swam, and for you as well, room to drift and never be crowded, never be hurried, never be anything but held in the wide, warm openness of the sea. And all of this, the warmth and the quiet and the wideness, is why the great lizards could be here at all, why this sea and no other became the cradle of their long reign. A cold sea would have asked too much of them. A narrow sea would have hemmed them in. But this warm, wide, shallow ocean gave them everything, gave them heat to keep their great bodies easy, gave them room to grow vast and to roam, gave them a brimming richness of life to feed upon in every layer of the green. The sea made the lizards. That is the simple truth at the heart of this whole long night. And the sea that made them is the same warm, gentle water that holds you now. So let it make you easy too. Breathe in slowly, with the rising swell. Breathe out more slowly still, with the swell settling back, and rest in the warm, wide sea that made the great lizards, and that holds you now as kindly as it held them. The long shape we felt passing in the green has slowed, and the current is carrying you toward it, and now, at last, you can begin to see it. It is a sea lizard, a mosasaur, and it hangs almost motionless in the water ahead of you, lit from above by the soft green light, as calm as a cloud that has decided to rest. Take your time looking at it. It will not mind. It has nowhere to be, and neither do you, and the two of you can hang here in the warm water together for as long as the watching pleases you. The first thing you notice is the length. The creature is long, far longer than it is wide, built like a single smooth line drawn through the water by a steady hand. From the blunt tip of its snout to the end of its tail it runs on, and the body does not bulge or break that line anywhere. It is all one continuous shape, tapering gently at both ends, the way a drop of water tapers, the way the most graceful boats are shaped, because the water has taught it, across uncounted years, exactly what shape moves through water best. Look at the head. It is long and somewhat flattened, with jaws that run far back toward the neck, and there is something of the crocodile in it, and something of the great monitor lizards that still bask in the warm places of your own world. The eyes are set high and to the sides, dark and round and calm, and they are watching you without alarm, the way a cow in a field watches a passing traveller, with a mild and bottomless patience. There is no malice in those eyes, there is no fear in them either. There is only the long, quiet attention of a creature entirely at home. Inside those jaws are teeth, and we will not pretend they are not there, for the mosasaur is a hunter, and its teeth are the tools of its trade. But notice how they are made for this water world. They are conical and curved and smooth, made not for chewing but for holding, for closing on something slippery and keeping it held. And there is a second small row of teeth set in the roof of the mouth, on the bones of the palate, a feature it shares with the snakes, which helps to draw a slick and struggling fish backward down the throat. It is an elegant solution to a simple problem, and the mosasaur wears it without cruelty, the way a heron wears its long, sharp beak. Now let your eye travel down from the head along the body, and find the limbs. This is where the long story of the mosasaur is written most clearly, for the limbs are not legs anymore, they are paddles. 4 of them, broad and flattened and smooth, 2 at the front and 2 behind, and they do not push the creature through the water so much as steer it, tilt it, turn it, hold it level in the slow current. Inside each paddle if you could see beneath the skin, are the bones of a hand and the bones of a foot. The same bones you carry in your own hands and feet, but shortened and broadened and webbed together into a single living oar. That is the quiet marvel of this animal, and it is worth resting on. Those paddles were once feet that walked on dry land. The bones inside them once carried the creature's ancestors across warm shores and through coastal shallows, and across millions of years the sea reshaped them, finger by finger, until walking was forgotten and only swimming remained. The mosasaur did not lose its legs. It traded them, slowly, patiently, for something the water valued more. And so it carries the memory of land inside its paddles, the way you carry, somewhere deep in your own body, the memory of the warm sea you floated in before you were born. Watch how it holds itself in the water. It is not swimming now. It is simply hovering, the paddles making small, slow adjustments, a tilt here, a feathering there, holding the long body level and still in the moving current. There is a deep economy in it, a refusal to spend any effort that is not needed. The creature has learned the great lesson of the sea, which is that stillness costs nothing and motion costs much, and so it is still whenever it can be, and moves only when it must, and even then it moves as little as the moving will allow. Now look at the tail, for the tail is the true engine of this body, and it is a beautiful thing. It runs back from the body long and powerful, deep and flattened from side to side, and at its very end it widens into a broad fluke, a paddle-shaped fin that the creature sweeps slowly from side to side when it wishes to move. The mosasaur swims the way an eel swims, the way a snake swims, sending a single slow wave down the length of its body and out through the tail, and that wave is enough. One unhurried sweep and the whole long shape glides forward through the green, smooth as a thought, and is still again. It was a long time before anyone understood that tale. For many years, those who studied the old bones imagined the mosasaur as a simple, straight-tailed swimmer, a kind of sea serpent. But the rock kept better secrets than that. In time, the faint ghost of skin and fin was found pressed into the stone around the tailbones of some of these creatures, and it showed a downward bend near the tip and a true fin spread above it, a tail more like a shark's than a serpent's. The mosasaur, it turned out, was a finer swimmer than anyone had dared to guess, and the sea had shaped it more completely than the first dreamers knew. Consider the skin now, the surface of this great calm animal. It is covered in small scales, fine and overlapping, and they are not the rough armoured plates you might expect, but something smaller and smoother, scales that lie flat against the body and let the water slip past with the least possible drag. Some of these scales, pressed into ancient stone, have kept the faint memory of their colour, and they tell us the mosasaur was likely countershaded, dark along the back and pale along the belly, the way a shark is, the way a penguin is, the way so many swimmers are. Seen from above, it would vanish into the dark, deep water below it. Seen from below, it would vanish into the bright surface above. It wore the sea itself as camouflage. Think of how it must look from a distance, then, this great patient creature. From above, only a darker patch in the dark green, a shadow among shadows. From below, only a paleness against the brighter ceiling, a cloud among clouds. It moves through its world half hidden at all times, neither fully seen nor fully unseen, a presence sensed more than glimpsed, exactly as you first sensed it, as a pressure in the water before you knew its shape. It is the most natural thing in the world for it to be hard to see. The sea asked it to disappear, and across the ages, it learned how. There is breath inside this body too, and that is the strangest and most touching thing about it. For all that the mosasaur belongs so completely to the sea, it cannot breathe the sea. It breathes air as you do, drawing it into true lungs, holding it, using it, and then it must rise every so often to the silver ceiling far above to break the surface and breathe again. It is a creature of the deep that is forever tethered to the sky, and there is something gentle in that, something that links it to you across all the long miles of time. You and the mosasaur both must breathe the same air, both must rise toward the light to live. Watch it do so now, if you like, for the watching is restful. The great shape tilts its snout upward and gives one slow sweep of its tail, and it rises through the green, unhurried, the columns of light sliding down its dark flanks, until its head breaks the silver ceiling far above you with the softest of disturbances, hardly a ripple. It breathes. You cannot hear it from here, but you can imagine it. The long, slow draw of air into the great body, the warm, damp air of the Cretaceous evening filling lungs that were made, like everything else about this creature, for exactly this purpose and no other. And then it sinks again, slow as falling snow, back down into the green, back toward you, refilled and calm. How large is it, this creature you are watching? That depends, for the mosasaurs came in many sizes, and we will meet the great ones and the small ones alike before the night is through. The one before you now is neither the largest nor the least, a middling sea lizard, perhaps as long as a small boat, perhaps longer, its true size hard to judge in the deceiving green, where there is nothing to measure it against. But the largest of its kind grew vast indeed, longer than the largest crocodiles, longer than a bus, longer than almost anything that swims in your own seas today. We will come to them. For now, this calm and middling one is company enough. There is in the whole arrangement of this body a sense of a problem long ago solved. Every part of it answers some need of the water. The long smooth line answers the need to slip through without drag. The paddles answer the need to steer. The deep finned tail answers the need to move. The high-set eyes answer the need to watch the bright surface for the shapes of prey. The counter-shaded skin answers the need to be unseen. The air-filled lungs answer the oldest need of all, which the sea could never quite take away. It is a body in which nothing is wasted and nothing is missing, a body that has arrived, after a long journey, exactly where it was always going. And it arrived there slowly. That is the thing to carry with you as you drift here watching it hover in the green light. Nothing about this creature happened fast. Every smoothing of the body, every webbing of the toes, every degree of bend in the tail, was the work of more years than the mind can hold. Generation laid upon generation like the soft white mud settling on the seabed far below, each layer almost nothing, all the layers together making a floor on which a whole world could stand. The mosasaur is not an invention. It is an accumulation. It is patience made flesh. The creature shifts now, ever so slightly, the great tail giving one slow feathering sweep, and it begins to drift away from you, deeper into the green, in no hurry, simply moving on the way a cloud moves on. You let it go. There will be others, and there will be more of this one, and there is, as always here, no shortage of time. You have seen the body now. You have seen the shape the sea spent an age carving, and you find yourself wondering, as it fades into the soft green distance, how such a body ever came to be, how a creature of the dry land ever turned itself so completely back into a creature of the deep. That is the next part of the story, and we will drift toward it slowly. But first, let yourself rest a moment longer in the warm water, and let the wondering itself grow soft and slow, and carry you, gently, a little further down towards sleep. Drift a while longer beside this gentle shape, and let your eye move slowly along it, from the blunt soft snout to the tip of the fin tail, taking in how every part of it was made for ease in the water. There is nothing sharp or hurried in the line of it. It is all smooth curves and long, gentle tapers, a body drawn by the water itself across long ages of slow refinement, until every edge that might have caught or dragged was smoothed away. To watch it hang there in the green light, barely moving, is to watch a thing in perfect agreement with the world around it, a creature that does not fight the sea but belongs to it utterly, the way a cloud belongs to the sky. Let that agreement soothe you. Let it remind you that you, too, may stop fighting the water and simply float. Consider the paddles again, those 4 soft, broad limbs that hold the great lizard so steady in the water, and think of how unhurried they are. They do not beat or thrash. They tilt, gently, and turn, and the great body answers with the smallest of movements, a slow roll, a slight rising, a soft change of heading, all of it accomplished with the least possible effort. The great lizard is a master of stillness as much as of motion, and it spends far more of its long life hanging quiet in the green than it ever spends in swimming. It has learned, across the ages, the deep economy of the water, the art of doing almost nothing and letting the sea do the rest. Watch the paddles rest, motionless, and let your own hands rest, and let the stillness of the great lizard become your stillness too. And think once more of the slow breathing, for it is the gentlest thing about this creature and the thing most like your own drift towards sleep. Every so often, in its own unhurried time, the great lizard tilts upward and rises, slowly, through the warm green layers toward the bright skin of the surface, and breaks it softly, and takes one long, easy breath of the open air, and then sinks back, just as slowly, into the green. There is no urgency in it. The breath comes when it comes, deep and full and calm, and between the breaths there is only the long quiet hanging in the water. Let your own breathing find that same slow shape, the long rise, the single easy breath, the long slow sinking back. Breathe as the great lizard breathes, unhurried and complete, and let each breath carry you a little deeper toward rest. It is a strange comfort, perhaps, to find so much peace in the shape of a great hunting lizard, but the comfort is real, and you may keep it. For this creature, whatever else it was at home, perfectly and wholly at home, in the warm sea that held it, fitted to that water in every line and motion, asking nothing of the world but the water it was made for. There is a deep rest in that kind of belonging, the rest of a thing that is exactly where it ought to be, doing exactly what it was made to do, with no strain and no struggle anywhere in it. Let that belonging settle over you now. You too are held by something larger than yourself. You too may stop striving and simply be carried. Breathe in slowly, breathe out more slowly still, and rest in the gentle shape of the creature that the warm sea made so perfectly its own. If you are drifting now, let yourself keep drifting. There is nothing here you need to stay awake for, and nothing you will miss by letting go. If you would like the next slow story to be waiting for you when you wake, you might quietly subscribe before you sink the rest of the way down, but only if it is easy. Only if it does not cost you the warm weight already gathering behind your eyes. The sea will still be here. Rest now, and we will go on together, slowly, into the long return. Let the warm current hold you steady now, and let us drift backward in time for a while, gently, the way you might let your mind wander back through the years of your own life as you lie waiting for sleep. We are going back, not far by the measure of the earth, but very far by the measure of a life, to a time before the great sea lizards were great, before they were even fully creatures of the sea, when the whole long story was just beginning at the edge of the warm shallows. Picture a coastline, then, in an earlier part of this same Cretaceous age. The water is warm and the shore is low, and where the land meets the sea there is a wide, soft margin of lagoons and reed beds and tidal flats, neither quite land nor quite ocean, a place of in-between. And living along that margin is a small lizard, nothing remarkable to look at. A slim, long-bodied creature with 4 ordinary legs and a long tail, at home both on the warm mud and in the shallow water that laps against it. This little lizard is an ancestor of everything we have come to see. This is where the long return begins. It did not set out to conquer the ocean. No creature ever sets out to do such a thing. It only did what was easy, what was near, what the day in front of it offered. The shallows were full of food, small fish and soft creatures and the slow drift of easy meals, and the little lizard was a good swimmer in a loose and ordinary way, and so it spent more and more of its time in the water because the water was where the living was good. That is all. The whole vast transformation began with nothing grander than a lizard finding that the sea was a generous place to eat, and because it spent its days in the water began, slowly, to shape it. Not in its own lifetime, nothing so quick as that. But across the long succession of its descendants, generation after generation, the ones whose bodies happened to suit the water a little better tended to thrive a little more, and to leave a few more young behind them, and so, by the slowest arithmetic in the world, the line of these lizards drifted steadily toward the sea. A slightly longer tail here, a slightly flatter foot there, a body a little more supple, a little more given to that side-to-side swimming wave. Each change almost nothing. All the changes together, an ocean. We have given a name to some of these in-between creatures, the early swimming lizards that were no longer quite of the land, but not yet fully of the sea. They were small, most of them, and they still had recognizable legs, legs that could perhaps still carry them up onto a beach to bask or to lay their eggs, even as those same legs were beginning to broaden and flatten toward the paddles they would one day become. They were creatures of the threshold, and they lived their whole lives in the doorway between two worlds, and there is something restful in imagining them there, half in the warm water, half on the warm sand, belonging wholly to neither and entirely at peace. Think of how gradual it all was. There was never a morning when one of these creatures woke up and was suddenly a sea lizard. There was never a single leap, a single dramatic crossing. There was only the slow leaning of a whole long line of lives toward the water, a leaning so slow that no creature in it could ever have felt the change, any more than you can feel yourself growing older as you lie here breathing in the dark. Each one simply lived its own ordinary life in the shallows it was born to, and the sea did the rest, patiently, across more years than there are grains of sand on the shore where it all began. And as the creatures leaned toward the water, the land let go of them, one hold at a time. First, the long time spent ashore grew shorter. The basking on the warm sand, the slow walks along the tide line, these became rarer, then gone. The legs that had carried them ashore grew less and less able to do so, broadening into paddles that were splendid in the water and useless on the land. There came a point, somewhere in that long leaning, after which there was no more going back, after which the shore was closed to them forever, and the open sea was the only home left. But even that closing of the door happened gently, by degrees, without alarm. The greatest letting go of all was the egg. For the little shore lizard, like all its kind, had laid its eggs on land, in the warm sand above the tide, as lizards and turtles have always done. But a creature whose legs have become paddles cannot climb a beach to lay eggs in the sand. It cannot leave the water at all, and so, somewhere in the long return, the sea lizards solved this last problem in the only way that remained to them. They stopped laying eggs upon the land. They began, instead, to give birth in the open water, to bring their young into the world already swimming, far from any shore, in the warm blue cradle of the sea. With that, the return was complete. With that, the land was truly gone. We know this is true, that the great sea lizards bore live young, because the stone has told us so. In a few rare and precious cases, the bones of unborn young have been found inside the bodies of the mothers, or the bones of the very newly born have been found in places far out from any ancient shore, where no creature could have crawled to lay an egg. It is one of the tender secrets the rock has kept for us, this proof that the sea lizards, having given up the land entirely, learned to begin their lives without it. We will return to this gentle fact later, when we visit the nurseries of the warm surface water. For now, it is enough to know that the door to the land closed softly, and behind it, a new kind of life began. There is a lesson in this long return, though the sea lizards never knew they were teaching it, and you need not strain to learn it now. It is only this, that the largest changes are made of the smallest steps, and that the smallest steps, taken faithfully across enough time, can carry a creature anywhere at all, even out of one world and into another. The mosasaur did not conquer the sea by force or by will. It arrived in the sea the way water arrives at the lowest place, by following, without resistance, the slope that was always there, and so it became the ruler of an ocean without ever once intending to rule anything. Drift forward now, slowly, from those early shore lizards toward the great ones we have come to see, and watch the creatures grow and smooth and lengthen as the ages pass. The legs become paddles, the bodies become long and supple, the tails deepen and learn their downward bend and their swimming fin. The eyes climb higher on the skull, the teeth settle into their curved and holding shapes, and all the while the creatures grow larger and larger, filling the warm seas more and more completely, until the doorway lizards of the early shallows have become the unchallenged lords of the open ocean. It is the same line of life all the way through. It is the same story, only further along. What allowed them to grow so large was the same thing that allowed everything in this sea to flourish, the great generosity of the warm Cretaceous oceans. There was food enough, space enough, warmth enough, for a creature to grow vast and to keep its vastness fed, and there was, for a long while, no one already occupying the high place. The seas of this age had lost their earlier great rulers, the long-necked swimmers and others, who had thinned and faded over the ages before. Into that opening the sea lizards rose, the way a young tree rises into a gap in the forest where an old tree has fallen, finding the light suddenly there for the taking, and taking it. Consider what a strange and roundabout journey it was, in the end. The very first vertebrates had crawled out of the sea onto the land an unimaginably long time before, in an age so distant it makes the Cretaceous seem like yesterday. They had learned, across countless ages, to breathe air and walk on legs and lay their eggs upon the dry ground. And from them had come every creature of the land, the lizards among them, and now here was one line of those land creatures, after all that long labour of coming ashore, quietly turning around and going back to the water, back to the weightlessness, back to the warm cradle their most distant ancestors had left so long ago. They could not undo all of it, of course. They could not unmake their lungs and grow gills again. The sea, generous as it was, could not give them back the breathing of water once their line had given it up. And so they carried the land with them in that one way forever, in the need to rise and breathe, a small unbreakable thread tying them always to the sky. But in almost every other way they became creatures of the sea again, as fully as if they had never left it, and they wore their return so gracefully that you would never guess, watching one hover in the green light, that its ancestors had ever walked at all. There is something in this that is worth holding gently as you drift towards sleep. The idea that nothing is ever truly finished, that a creature can spend an age becoming one thing and then spend another age becoming something else, that the long story of life is not a straight march but a slow and patient wandering, full of returns and reversals, full of doors closing softly and other doors opening. The sea lizards remind us that there is no final shape, only the shape the moment asks for, and that even a creature built entirely for one world can, given time enough and gentleness enough, become entirely at home in another. And so we arrive, having drifted back and forward through the long return, at the great sea lizards in their full and finished glory, ruling the warm, shallow seas of the Late Cretaceous, the most complete swimmers their line had ever produced. They had given up the land and gained the ocean. They had traded their legs for paddles and their egg-laying for live birth, and their walking for the long, smooth swimming wave. They had become, after an age of patient leaning toward the water, exactly what the water had been shaping them to be. They had come home. Rest a moment in that word, home. For the sea is the mosasaur's home in the deepest sense, the place its whole long line of ancestors spent millions of years returning to, the place where every part of its body finally makes sense. And tonight, drifting here in the warm green water, half asleep, weightless, breathing slow, you are a guest in that home, and a welcome one. Let the thought of the long return carry you gently onward. There is more of this sea to see, more of its quiet wonders to drift among, and all the soft nights still ahead of us in which to see them. Breathe in, breathe out, and let us drift on, down through the layered light, toward the deeper quiet below. Rest a while in the great slowness of this returning, for there is deep peace in how unhurried it was. No single lizard ever set out to leave the land. No creature in that whole long story ever woke one morning and chose the sea. The change came so slowly that within any single life it could not be seen at all. Only across thousands upon thousands of lives, each one passing on, by the quiet arithmetic of living and dying, a shape very slightly more suited to the water than the shape it had received. A little more webbing between the toes, a little more ease in the swimming, a little less need for the dry land. Drop by drop, across spans of time too long to feel, the land creature became the sea creature, and never once was there a moment of haste. Let that immense patience calm you. The greatest changes, it says, are made of the smallest steps, taken slowly, over unimaginable time. Think of those first shore lizards, drowsing at the edge of the warm shallows in the long-ago beginning of the story, and feel how gently the sea drew them in. It did not seize them. It only offered, season after season, what the land grew slowly less able to give: an easy living in the rich warm water, food close at hand, a buoyancy that made the heavy body light. And the lizards, generation by generation, accepted the offer, drifting a little further out, staying a little longer in the water, until at last the warm sea was their whole world, and the dry land only a memory carried in their bones. There is no struggle in this story, rightly told. There is only a slow and gentle yielding to the pull of the water, a long soft drift from one world into another, and you may drift along with it, easily, letting the same warm sea draw you in, and dwell, gently, on the great change at the heart of it all, the giving up of the land-bound egg, for it is the tenderest part of the whole long return. The creatures of the dry land must lay their eggs on solid ground, and so they are always tethered, however far they wander, to the shore. But the great sea lizards, across the slow ages, let even that tether go. They learned to keep their young within them, safe in the warm dark of the body, until the young were ready to be born already swimming into the warm green water, never needing the land at all. With that, the last thread binding them to the dry world was gently cut, and they became creatures wholly of the sea, free to roam the whole warm ocean and never once return to shore. It was the final step of the long return, and it was a step toward greater freedom and greater ease, and there is something restful in that, something that loosens the last tightness in you and lets you drift entirely free. So let the long return carry you, slowly, the way it carried the lizards, out of one world and into another, with no haste and no fear. Feel how natural it was, in the end, how right, that the warm sea should call its old children home, and that they should answer, slowly, across the ages, until the water that life had once crawled out of became, for these creatures, the whole of the world again. There is a deep rhythm in it, a long, slow tide of going out and coming home, and you are riding that tide now, easily, carried by the same warm, patient sea. Breathe in slowly, breathe out more slowly still, and let the long return to the sea become your own slow return to rest, gentle and unhurried and complete. Let us go down now, slowly, deeper than we have gone before, and feel how the sea is made of layers, each one a different country, each one stacked softly upon the one below. You have been drifting near the top of the water until now, in the bright, warm skin of the ocean, but the sea goes down a long way beneath you, and the great lizards move through all of it, rising and sinking through the layers as easily as you might walk from a sunlit room into a cool and shadowed hall. Come down with me gently, and let us pass from layer to layer toward the quiet floor. Begin at the top, in the layer of light. This is the bright country, the sunlit skin of the sea, where the green is freshest and the warmth is greatest and the small drifting motes of life are thickest in the water. Everything that grows in the sea begins here, for this is the only layer the sun can truly reach, and so this is where the great pasture of the ocean lies, the invisible meadow of tiny living things on which all the larger creatures ultimately feed. The light here is generous and broken and always moving. It is the layer you have come to know. Now sink below it, just a little, and feel the change. The light dims by degrees, the warmth softens, the restless gold of the surface gives way to a steadier, cooler green. This is the twilight country, the long middle layer of the sea, and it is a quieter place than the bright skin above. The drifting motes are fewer here. The water is calmer, less stirred by the surface swell. Sounds carry further and slower. It is the sea's long afternoon, neither the brightness of its morning nor the dark of its night, and there is a great restfulness in passing down through it, the way there is a restfulness in the hour when the day begins, at last, to lean toward evening. The mosasaur moves easily through this twilight country, for its high-set eyes are made to gather what light there is, and its countershaded body hides it as well here as anywhere. It hangs in the cool green, watching the brighter water above for the shapes of fish silhouetted against the light, and it is patient, endlessly patient, content to wait in the twilight for as long as the waiting takes. There is a stillness to a hunting mosasaur that has nothing tense in it at all. It is the stillness of a creature that knows the food will come, sooner or later, and that there is no profit in being troubled by which. Go down further still, and the green begins, at last, to fail. The light that has come so far through the water grows thin and blue, and finally gives out, and you pass into the layer where the sun no longer truly reaches, the dim country near the floor. In your own deep oceans, this would be a place of true and total darkness, but here, in this shallow inland sea, the floor is not so very far down, and a faint blue dusk still lingers even here, the last weak memory of the sunlight, enough to see by if your eyes are made for seeing in the dark. The mosasaur's eyes are. They move through this dusk as comfortably as through the brighter water above. And here, at the bottom of the layered sea, is the floor itself, the pale country we have spoken of since the beginning of the night, and now at last you have come down to rest above it. It is a vast, soft plain of fine white mud, paler than the water, glowing faintly in the blue dusk, stretching away in every direction further than the dim light will let you see. It is the floor of the whole warm world, and it is made, as we will learn before the night is through, of the bodies of creatures too small to see, settled down through the water across uncounted years into this endless gentle snow. Hang here a moment, just above the pale floor, and feel how still it is. The surface swell that lifts and lowers you near the top of the sea cannot reach down this far. Here the water barely moves at all. It is the calmest place in the whole ocean, the still heart at the bottom of all that restless light, and small, slow creatures move across the soft mud, leaving faint trails behind them. The only writing in this quiet country, to rest here, just above the floor, is to rest in the most peaceful part of a peaceful sea, and you may stay as long as you like. The great lizards come down here too, though they cannot stay. Sometimes one will descend out of the twilight to move slowly along the floor, nosing among the soft mud for the creatures that shelter there, its pale belly almost brushing the paler ground, its dark back lost in the dimness above. It is a strange and gentle sight, the vast sea lizard moving low over the quiet floor, a king walking the cellars of his own house, unhurried, curious, at home in the deepest and stillest room of his kingdom. And then, in its own slow time, it tilts its snout upward and begins the long climb back toward the light. For there is one thing the deep floor cannot give it, and that thing is air. This is the great rhythm of the mosasaur's life, the rising and the sinking, the climb toward the bright surface to breathe, and the descent into the cool depths to hunt and to rest. It lives between the light above and the dark below, belonging fully to neither, passing endlessly between them, and there is a deep and soothing regularity in it, the regularity of breath itself. Up to the light, down to the dark, up to breathe, down to live, up and down through the layered sea, slow as the tide, slow as sleep, for the whole length of its long life. Follow one upward now, and let the climb be restful. The great shape rises out of the dim floor country, through the failing blue, up into the cool green twilight, the columns of light growing brighter and broader as it climbs. It does not hurry the ascent. There is no panic in it, no desperate need for air, for the mosasaur can hold a single breath, a long, long while, far longer than you could, and it rises only when the time is right, smoothly, easily, the way a held thought rises slowly to the surface of a quiet mind. Up through the twilight, up into the bright skin of the sea, up to the silver ceiling, and there it breaks the surface with hardly a sound, and breathes. Imagine the moment from the creature's own side, if you can, the way the warm, damp air of the Cretaceous evening floods into the great lungs, the brief touch of the world above the water, the wide sky piled with slow clouds, the far line where the sea meets the dimming gold of the sunset. The mosasaur sees little of this, and cares for none of it. It has come up only to breathe, and having breathed, it sinks again at once, back down through the bright skin, down into the green, down toward the dark and the quiet and the cool. The sky is only a doorway it must visit. The sea is the whole house. There is a pressure that comes with the depths, and the mosasaur's body has learned to bear it, though you need not think too hard about how. As a creature sinks, the weight of all the water above it presses inward, gently at first and then more firmly, and a body must be built to take that pressure without harm. The great lizards were built for it, their bodies suited to the rising and the sinking, able to move through the layers of the sea without distress. They do not fear the deep the way a land creature fears it. The deep is simply the lower rooms of their home, cool and dim and known, and they pass into it and out of it without a second thought. Lie here a while longer, suspended between the layers, and let yourself feel where you are in the great vertical country of the sea. Above you, the bright skin and the silver ceiling and the slow clouds beyond. Below you, the twilight green and then the failing blue and then the pale still floor. And you, in the middle of it all, weightless, held, breathing slow, drifting in the cool quiet between the light and the dark. It is the most balanced place in the world to rest, this middle country, the place where the warmth from above and the calm from below meet and mingle, and a body can simply hang, asking nothing, owing nothing, perfectly at ease. The great lizard you followed up to breathe is sinking past you again now, on its way back down toward the floor, the columns of light sliding off its dark flanks as it descends. It pays you no mind. You are only another shape in the green to it, neither food nor threat, a small, warm, drifting thing it has no reason to trouble itself about. And there is a strange comfort in being so thoroughly ignored by something so large, in being allowed to share its water without fear, in being, for this one long dreaming night, simply a part of the sea among all the other parts. As the lizard sinks away below you into the dim floor country, you find your eye drawn to the spaces it leaves behind, the great green volumes of the open water, and you begin to notice that they are not empty. The whole sea is full of drifting things, turning slowly in the cool light, and some of them are stranger and lovelier than anything you have seen yet. Shelled and spiraled and patient, the slow clocks of the open ocean. We will drift among them next. Those gentle turning creatures, and there is no better way to fall further towards sleep than to watch them turn. But first, let yourself rest here a moment more. Balance between the light above and the dark below, breathing slow, weightless, held. In the calm middle country of the warm and ancient sea, let yourself drift slowly down through these layers now, gently, with no effort and no fear, the way the great lizard drifts when it has breathed its fill and lets itself sink toward the quiet deep. At the top there is the bright, warm skin of the sea, all dancing gold and silver, lit through and through by the sun, the busiest and most brilliant of the layers. And as you sink, slowly, the brightness softens. The dancing light grows calmer, the gold deepens toward green, and the warmth, though it is still everywhere, grows gentler and more even. You are leaving the bright bustle of the surface behind, sinking into the long, calm middle waters where the light is soft and the world is quiet, and there is nothing to do but sink, slowly, and let each layer be calmer than the last. Down here, in the soft green middle of the sea, the light comes from everywhere and nowhere. A gentle even glow with no harsh edges, no glare, no shadow sharp enough to trouble the eye. It is the light of a room at dusk with the lamps turned low, the light that asks nothing of you, the light you can rest your eyes in. There is no up that demands your attention and no down that frightens you, only the soft green all around, holding you in its quiet glow. Let your eyes grow heavy in this gentle light. There is nothing here bright enough to keep you awake, nothing sharp enough to startle you. Only the long, soft green, deepening slowly toward the dim, inviting you down and down toward the quiet floor of rest. And below, far below, lies the dim and patient floor, the calmest place in all the sea where the light is faint and silver grey and the water is still as a held breath. Nothing hurries on the floor of the warm sea. The currents that stir the bright surface barely reach down here, and the soft pale ground lies undisturbed beneath its gentle haze, and the few creatures that move across it move slowly, slowly, in the dim and dreamy light. This is the deepest and most restful layer of all, the floor toward which everything in the sea eventually settles, and you are sinking toward it now, gently, layer by calming layer, leaving the bright world far above and coming down at last toward the quiet patient deep where rest is waiting. Feel how good it is to sink, how natural, how easy. The great lizard does not fear the deep, and neither need you. It rises to breathe when it must, and then it lets itself go, sinking softly back through the layers into the calm green deep, trusting the warm sea to hold it however far it sinks. You may trust the same way. You may let yourself sink, slowly, through layer after layer of deepening calm, knowing that the warm sea holds you at every depth, that there is no layer too deep and no quiet too complete, that the further down you drift the more peaceful it becomes. Breathe in slowly and rise the smallest bit. Breathe out more slowly still and sink a little deeper, and let the long descent through the gentle layers carry you, softly, all the way down toward the quiet floor of sleep. There is a thing that happens to the body as it sinks through these layers, a slow and pleasant heaviness, and you may let it happen to you now. Near the bright surface, a creature feels light, buoyant, almost restless, lifted by the dancing water. But as it sinks into the calm green middle, and on toward the dim, a gentle weight gathers around it, and even pressure from the deep water, holding it more and more firmly, more and more completely, the deeper it goes. It is not an unpleasant weight. It is the opposite, a deep and reassuring heaviness, the feeling of being truly and thoroughly held. Let that heaviness gather in you now. Feel your limbs grow pleasantly heavy, your body sink more firmly into what holds it, the gentle weight of the deep settling over you like the warmest of blankets, pressing you softly down toward rest. Notice, as you sink, how the small movements grow fewer and slower in the deeper water. Near the surface, everything flickers and darts and shimmers, busy with light and life. But down in the calm green deep, the world slows. The creatures here move rarely, and when they move it is unhurried, a slow turn, a gentle drift, long stillnesses between. The very water seems to move more slowly, the currents gentler, the swaying of the light overhead grown faint and far. Everything quiets as you descend, slows, stills, until you are sinking through a world that is barely moving at all, a deep green hush where almost nothing stirs. Let your own movements grow that few and that slow. Let the last small restless motions in you settle and cease, until you too are nearly still, sinking quietly through the quiet deep. And feel how the dim does not frighten but comforts, the deeper you go. We think of the dark below as something to fear, but in the warm sea it is only softness, only rest, the gentle grey dimming of a world settling towards sleep. The harsh bright light is far above now, and around you there is only the soft and dreamy dimness, kind to the eyes, easy on the mind, asking nothing, showing nothing sharp or startling. It is the dimness of a darkened room when you are warm in bed and the day is done, the friendly dark that means it is time, at last, to rest. Let the gentle dim of the deep water close softly around you. Breathe in slowly and sink. Breathe out more slowly still and sink further, down into the kind grey dimness where rest is waiting. Turn your attention now to the open water around you, the great green volumes between the floor and the surface, and let your eyes soften and grow patient, for the creatures we are about to watch move so slowly that you must slow yourself to see them at all. They are the ammonites, the shell drifters of the Cretaceous sea, and they are everywhere in this water, turning gently in the green light, more numerous than you first noticed, the way the stars are more numerous than you first notice on a clear night. Once your eyes have learned to look, find one and rest your gaze upon it. It is a creature housed in a coiled shell, a spiral wound tightly upon itself, smooth and ridged and pearl pale, about the size, perhaps, of a dinner plate, though some of its kind grow far larger and some stay very small. From the open mouth of the spiral, where the creature lives in the largest and newest chamber of its shell, a cluster of soft tentacles reaches out into the water, and between them, two dark and watchful eyes consider the world with the mild attention of something that has never been in a hurry in its life. It is a cousin, distant but true, of the octopus and the squid, and a near relation of the pearly nautilus that still drifts through the warm seas of your own age. Watch how it moves, or rather how it barely moves, for the ammonite is a drifter above all things. It does not chase, it does not race. It hangs in the water, balanced with exquisite care, and when it wishes to go somewhere it draws water into its body and pushes it gently out again, and the soft push eases it backward through the green, slow and smooth, a creature jetting through the sea at the pace of a falling leaf. There is no haste in it anywhere. It turns, it drifts, it hangs and considers, and the whole performance is so unhurried that to watch it is to feel your own pulse begin to slow to match it. The shell that houses the ammonite is a marvel of quiet engineering, and there is a deep restfulness in understanding it. It is divided, inside, into many chambers, a whole spiral row of them, and the creature itself lives only in the last and largest. All the chambers behind it, the older rooms it has long since outgrown, are sealed and filled with gas and fluid in careful proportion, and by adjusting that balance the ammonite makes itself heavier or lighter, sinking or rising, hanging at exactly the depth it chooses. It carries its own buoyancy with it, built into the architecture of its home, and so it can hover in the open water without effort, perfectly weightless, exactly as you are hovering now. Think of the shell as a kind of diary then, a record of the creature's whole life wound into a spiral. The smallest, innermost chambers are the rooms of its infancy, built when it was newly born and very small. Each chamber outward is a little larger than the last, marking a season of growth, until the great outer chamber, where it now lives, marks the creature it has finally become. It carries its entire past coiled up behind it everywhere it goes, sealed and quiet and harmless, and it lives always in the present moment, at the open edge of the spiral, in the one room that is still being built. There is something to envy in that, on a quiet night. The spiral itself is a shape the sea seems to love, and you will find it everywhere once you begin to look, in the ammonite shell and the snails, in the curl of a wave and the slow turning of the great water wheels of the ocean. It is a shape that grows without changing, that gets larger and larger while staying always the same, and there is a deep mathematical calm in it. a sense of order underlying the soft chaos of the sea. To watch an ammonite turn slowly in the green light is to watch that calm order made flesh, the patient logic of the spiral drifting weightless before your eyes. There are a great many kinds of ammonite in this sea, more than you could meet in a single night, and they come in a wonderful variety of shapes. Most are coiled in the neat flat spiral you have been watching, but some are coiled loosely, with the turns of the spiral standing apart from one another, and a few, the strangest of all, have abandoned the tidy spiral altogether and grown into shells that twist and bend in odd and lovely ways, like ribbons, like hooks, like the doodles of a daydreaming hand. These curious uncoiled ammonites drift through the water beside their neater cousins, and no one troubles them for their strangeness. The sea has room for every shape. Beside the ammonites move other shell drifters, their relatives, the belemnites, and these are shaped quite differently, more like the squid they truly are, with soft bodies and reaching arms and a hard internal bullet of a shell hidden inside them for ballast. They move in loose and gentle companies through the open water, a soft cloud of them turning together in the green, and where the ammonites drift singly and thoughtfully, the belemnites drift in numbers, a slow and shifting crowd, like the loose flocks of birds that wheel without urgency across an autumn sky. To watch them move together is restful in a different way, the restfulness of many small things doing the same slow thing at once. All of these drifting creatures are part of the great slow web of the sea, and it is worth understanding, gently, where they sit in it. They feed, most of them, on smaller things than themselves, on the tiny drifting motes that fill the bright water and on the small swimmers that move among them, and they are fed upon in turn by larger creatures, by fish, and by the great lizards themselves, some of which have teeth made especially for cracking shells. We will meet those shell crackers later, the round-toothed sea lizards that move slowly along the floor crunching the hard drifters one by one, but there is nothing cruel in it, nothing hurried. It is only the way the warmth and the light of the sun, gathered first by the smallest creatures, pass slowly upward through the sea from the small to the large, the way warmth passes through a sleeping house. The ammonite you have been watching turns now, slowly, and a shadow passes over it, and for a moment you tense, expecting the swift dart of a hunter. But there is no dart. The shadow is only another ammonite, drifting past above, and the two of them turn near one another in the green light without alarm, two slow spirals sharing the same patch of quiet water, and then they drift apart again, each going its own unhurried way. Even the small dramas of this sea resolve into stillness. Even the moments that might have been tense dissolve, gently, into more drifting. There is a great age in these creatures, an age beyond the reckoning of any single life. The ammonites had been turning through the warm seas of the earth for an enormous span of time, before the moment you are drifting in now, far longer than the great lizards, far longer than the dinosaurs upon the land. They had ridden out the slow turning of whole worlds, the rise and fall of seas, the drift of continents, and through it all, they had simply kept turning, kept drifting, kept coiling their patient spirals one chamber at a time. They are among the most enduring shapes the sea ever made, and to drift among them is to drift among deep survivors, creatures that had learned, ages ago, the secret of simply continuing. Let yourself sink a little deeper into the watching. The green light comes down in soft columns, and the ammonites turn slowly within it. Dozens of them, scores of them, each one a pale spiral hanging weightless in the water, each one drifting at its own chosen depth. The whole great open volume of the sea filled with their gentle, aimless, beautiful turning. It is like watching snow fall and never land. It is like watching the slow drift of dust in a sunbeam in a quiet room on a quiet afternoon, when there is nowhere you have to be and nothing you have to do but watch. And the sound of this drifting, if it has a sound at all, is the softest sound in the sea. The ammonites make almost no noise as they move. There is only the faint murmur of the water itself, the click and tick of the smallest creatures, the far low boom of the swell against some distant reef, and beneath it all the great breathing quiet of the deep. The drifting of the ammonites happens in near silence, a slow silent ballet performed for no audience, going on whether anyone watches or not, going on through the bright day and the dim night, going on, turning and turning, in the warm green water. Choose one last ammonite to watch before we drift onward, and follow it with your slowing eyes as it turns. See how the green light catches the ridges of its shell and slides along them. See how its soft tentacles reach and curl and gather. See how it hangs, perfectly balanced, perfectly at ease, a small patient life housed in a spiral of pearl, drifting through the warm sea exactly as it has drifted for an age, asking nothing, owing nothing, simply continuing, and let your breathing fall in with its turning, slow and slow and slower, until you can hardly tell where the drifting of the ammonite ends and your own soft drifting towards sleep begins. The current is moving you on again now, gently, away from the turning spirals, Rietstorper into the warm green country of the open sea. You leave the ammonites behind you, still turning, as they will go on turning long after you have drifted out of sight, and you carry with you only the memory of their slowness, their patience, their weightless calm. There are larger companions ahead of you in this water, long-necked swimmers and great gentle turtles and others, and we will drift among them next, but the ammonites have done their quiet work already. They have slowed you. They have eased you down. They have shown you, turning in the green light, exactly how to drift, and you are drifting now more deeply than before toward the soft, dark waiting below. Linger here among the drifting ammonites a while longer, for there are few sights in all the warm sea so quietly hypnotic, so perfectly suited to easing a mind towards sleep. Watch them turn, slowly, in the green light, their coiled shells catching the soft glow and letting it go, catching and letting go, as they rise and sink and drift on the gentle currents. There is no destination in their drifting. They go where the water goes, rolling slowly through the green, a whole quiet multitude of spirals turning at their own unhurried pace. To watch them is to feel your own thoughts slow to match their turning, round and round, gentle and aimless and calm, until the turning of the ammonites and the slow drift of your own drowsy mind become, almost, the same soft motion. Think of the chambered shells, those beautiful spirals built one small room at a time, and let the thought turn slowly with them. Each ammonite carried its whole history coiled around itself, the tiny first room of its infancy at the centre, then each larger room added as it grew, spiralling outward, until the great final chamber where it lived held all the smaller rooms of all its earlier days wound up inside it. It carried its past with it gently, wherever the water took it, a living spiral of every size it had ever been. There is something deeply restful in that image, the whole life wound softly into a single drifting shape, nothing discarded, nothing lost, only coiled away and carried along. Let your own day coil away like that now, gently, room by room, wound up small and quiet, and set adrift. And consider how the ammonites moved through the layers, rising and sinking by the gentlest means, adding a little gas to the small sealed rooms of the shell to grow lighter and float upward, letting a little go to grow heavier and sink. No fins, no effort, no haste. Only the slow adjustment of buoyancy, the patient trading of heaviness and lightness, that let them drift up toward the bright water and down toward the dim, with no more struggle than a thought. They were the calmest travellers in all the sea, going everywhere and hurrying nowhere, and the warm green water carried them as it carries everything, kindly, without question. Let it carry you the same way. Grow a little lighter as you breathe in, rising the smallest bit. Grow a little heavier as you breathe out, sinking gently down. So let the great slow drift of the ammonites fill your darkening mind, a whole sea of gentle spirals turning in the green, rising and sinking, catching the soft light and letting it go, going nowhere in particular through the warm and patient water. They turned through that sea for ages beyond counting, and the turning was peaceful then, and it is peaceful now, in the memory of it, in the soft imagining of it that holds you here at the edge of sleep. There is nothing to chase, and nothing to reach. There is only the turning, slow and endless and calm. Breathe in slowly, breathe out more slowly still. And let yourself drift among the ammonites, turning gently in the green, all the way down into rest. Drift now among the other soft travellers of the open water, the belemnites, the slender swimming cousins of the spiraled ones, moving gently through the green in their quiet schools. They are simpler shapes, long and tapered, a little like the squid that still drift the seas today, and they move by the gentlest of means, drawing in a slow draught of water and easing it out again, so that they glide softly backward through the green with no haste and no effort. A whole school of them passing through the soft light is one of the calmest sights in all the sea. Dozens of slender shapes drifting together in loose, easy company, rising and sinking, turning slowly as one, going nowhere in particular through the warm and patient water. Watch them drift by, the gentle belemnites, and let their soft, unhurried gliding ease you further toward rest. Think of how many they were, the soft, drifting creatures of the open water, and let the great, gentle multitude of them soothe you. The warm sea was not empty between its larger wonders. It was filled, softly, everywhere, with the slow turning of the spiraled ones and the easy gliding of the slender ones, a vast, quiet population of drifting shapes filling the green in every direction, more than any creature could ever count. You could drift for a long, slow while and never be out of sight of them, the gentle turning and the gentle gliding, near and far, a whole soft world of quiet life drifting through the warm water. There is comfort in that fullness, the sense of a sea brimming softly with gentle company, and you may rest in it now, one more quiet drifter among the countless quiet drifters of the warm green sea. And let the whole slow population of the open water turn and glide and drift through your darkening mind, asking nothing of you. A soft, endless motion you may watch until watching itself grows dim. The spiraled ones turn slowly in the green. The slender ones glide gently by. The soft multitude drifts on, near and far, rising and sinking, turning and gliding, filling the warm water with quiet life, going nowhere, hurrying nothing, simply drifting in the gentle current as they drifted across all the long ages of the sea. Let your thoughts join their slow drift now, turning gently, gliding softly, growing fewer and dimmer in the deepening green. Breathe in slowly, breathe out more slowly still, and drift among the gentle multitude of the open water, soft and slow and easy, all the way down into sleep. The mosasaur does not rule an empty sea. All around it, through the warm green water, move other great creatures, each one a marvel in its own right, each one a long story of its own, and tonight we will drift among them gently and meet a few. They are the mosasaur's companions in the current, its neighbours in the warm, shallow ocean, and to know them is to know the fullness of the world the great lizard moved through. So let the current carry you on, and let us see who else is sharing this water with us in the soft green evening. The first to come gliding out of the green is a creature you may have heard of, for it is one of the most beautiful shapes the sea ever made. It is a long-necked swimmer, a plesiosaur, and the thing you notice first about it is the neck, which is astonishingly, improbably long, running out ahead of its body like a slender bridge, ending in a small and gentle head. Its body is broad and barrel-shaped, and from it reach 4 great wing-like flippers, and with these it does something no other creature in this sea quite does. It flies. It flaps its 4 wings slowly through the water, and flies through the green the way a great calm bird flies through the air, rising and falling on its slow wing beats, serene and otherworldly. Watch it pass, this flying swimmer with its endless neck. There is a dreamlike quality to it, a sense of something half imagined, for nothing about it looks quite possible, and yet there it is, real and present and gliding by. The long neck reaches ahead and curves and reaches again, searching the water for fish, and the small head at the end of it darts now and then with surprising quickness, but the body beneath sails on, smooth and unbothered, on its slow and patient wings. It is among the gentlest sights in the sea, the long-necked swimmer flying by in the green light, and you could watch it for a long while without tiring. These long-necked swimmers were an old and noble line, far older than the mosasaurs, and in the seas of earlier ages they had been among the great rulers of the water. By the time you are drifting in now, the late part of the Cretaceous, they had grown fewer, their long reign quietly waning as the sea lizards rose, but they had not vanished. Some of them still glided through the warm seas on their 4 slow wings, their necks longer than ever, their gentleness undimmed, the last graceful inheritors of an ancient throne. And the mosasaurs let them be, for the most part, 2 kinds of great swimmer sharing the same wide water, each going its own slow way. Now something altogether different comes drifting up from below, rising slowly out of the dim floor country toward the brighter green, and it is a shape you will know at once, for its kind still swims the seas of your own day. It is a turtle, a sea turtle, but a turtle on a scale that would astonish you, for the great turtles of this Cretaceous sea grew vast, the largest of them as wide across as a small room, their shells broad and ridged, their flippers like the wings of some patient angel. It rose itself slowly upward through the water with great unhurried strokes, its ancient calm face turned mildly toward the light, and it is one of the most peaceful creatures in all the sea. The great turtle rises past you on its way to the surface to breathe, for it too is an air breather, tethered like the mosasaur to the sky above the water. Watch the slow power of its strokes, the way each downbeat of its huge front flippers drives it smoothly upward, the way it seems to row through the green with the unbothered patience of something that has all the time in the world and knows it. There is a deep steadiness in a swimming turtle, an ancientness, a sense of a shape so old and so well made that the sea long ago stopped trying to improve it. It breaks the silver ceiling far above, breathes, and begins the long, slow rowing back down into the green. Among these great gentle creatures move the fish, and some of the fish of this sea are great in their own right. There are fish here as long as a tall man, longer, with deep silver bodies and powerful tails and jaws full of slim, sharp teeth. Swift hunters of the open water, that race after smaller fish in sudden silver bursts, and then settle again into their easy cruising. They move in the brighter water near the surface, where the light flashes off their flanks, and from below they are only quick, bright shapes against the silver ceiling, here and gone, the most restless creatures in a restful sea. Even they, though, spend most of their hours simply cruising, easy and unhurried, saving their swiftness for the moments that need it. And there are sharks, of course, for there have always been sharks, in every sea of every age, and there were sharks in this one too, some of them very large. They move through the green with the old slow certainty of their kind, that side-to-side ease that has not changed in an unimaginable span of time, sensing the water around them through senses you do not have, patient, attentive, at home. The shark is among the oldest of all the sea's great hunters, far older than the mosasaur, far older than the long-necked swimmers, and it moves through this Cretaceous water with the calm of something that has seen seas come and go and simply kept on swimming. We will not trouble ourselves about its teeth tonight. We will only watch it pass, slow and grey and ancient, and let it go on its way. All of these creatures, the long-necked swimmers and the great turtles and the swift fish and the ancient sharks, share the warm water with the mosasaurs, and together they make a community of a kind, a great slow assembly of life moving through the same green sea. They do not gather, they do not cooperate. Each goes its own way, drifting and hunting, and rising to breathe, and sinking to rest. But they share the water, and they have learned to share it, and the sea is wide and generous enough that there is room, most of the time, for all of them to live their slow lives without much troubling one another. It is a crowded sea, and yet a peaceful one, full of great creatures who have mostly agreed by long habit to let each other be. There is a hierarchy in this community, it is true, an ordering of who eats whom, and at or near the top of it sit the great mosasaurs, the largest and most complete of the sea's hunters. But a hierarchy is not the same as a war. Most of the creatures in this sea spend most of their time not hunting and not being hunted, but simply living, drifting, cruising, breathing, resting. The moments of the hunt are brief and rare against the long hours of the ordinary day, the way a single clap of thunder is brief against the long quiet of a summer afternoon. We tend to remember the thunder, but the sea, like the afternoon, is mostly quiet. Drift here a while in the midst of all this company, and feel how full the water is, how alive. Above you the swift fish flash near the silver ceiling. Below you the great turtle rows slowly back down toward the floor. Off to one side the long-necked swimmer flies by on its patient wings, its neck reaching ahead into the green. Somewhere in the dimness, an old shark turns and is gone, and through it all, here and there, the great calm shapes of the mosasaurs hang and drift and sink and rise, the unhurried lords of this crowded, peaceful, ancient sea. You are surrounded by wonders, and not one of them means you any harm, and you may rest among them as easily as a child rests in a room full of the soft sounds of a family at evening. Notice, too, the smaller life that fills the spaces between the great creatures. Schools of little fish turn together in the green, flashing silver as they wheel, a single shape made of 1,000 bodies moving as one. Drifting jellyfish pulse slowly by, soft bells trailing fine threads, lit faintly from within by the green light. Small swimming creatures of every kind dart and hover and drift through the water, the countless lesser lives that fill the sea between its giants, and they too are part of the great slow community, the broad base on which all the larger creatures quietly stand. The sea is full from top to bottom, from the smallest mote to the greatest lizard, and every part of it is feeding every other part, gently, endlessly, the way a slow fire feeds itself with its own falling embers. There is a great comfort in being a small thing in a full sea. You are not the centre of anything here. You are not asked to manage the water, or to keep the creatures in their places, or to make the great slow machinery turn. It turns without you, as it turned for an age before you came, and will turn for an age after you are gone, and your only task tonight is to drift in the midst of it and let it hold you. The long-necked swimmer does not need you. The great turtle does not need you. The sea does not need you. And there is a deep relief in that, in being, for once, entirely unnecessary, entirely free. The light is dimming a little now, the green deepening toward the blue of evening as the sun far above the silver ceiling leans down toward the edge of the world. The creatures around you do not change their slow ways for the coming dark. The fish go on cruising. The turtle goes on rowing. The long-necked swimmer flies on through the deepening green. The mosasaurs hang and drift as they have hung and drifted all the long day. The sea simply softens toward night, the way a room softens when someone lowers a lamp. And the drifting goes on, gentler than ever, in the gathering dusk. Somewhere out in the deepening green, one of the great lizards has begun to move with a new and quiet purpose, turning its long body toward a shape in the water ahead. It is not haste. It is never quite haste with the mosasaurs, but there is a focus in it, a gathering of attention, that tells you the slow business of the hunt is beginning somewhere nearby. You need not fear it, and you need not look away. The hunt in this sea is told softly, like everything else, and we will drift toward it together and watch it the way you might watch a slow tide come in, with no alarm at all. But first, rest a moment longer among the gentle company of the current, in the deepening green of the Cretaceous evening, and let the soft dark gather you in. Drift a while longer among these gentle companions, for the warm sea was never a lonely place, and there is comfort in the quiet company of so many fellow travellers in the green. All around you, near and far, the soft shapes of the sea's other creatures move slowly through the water, each in its own unhurried way, none of them troubling the calm. The long-necked swimmers pass like slow clouds. The great turtles row by on their patient flippers. The schools of silver fish wheel and turn together in the bright upper water, flashing softly as they go. You are not alone in this sea, and you never were. You drift in the midst of a whole quiet community of life, all of it moving gently, all of it sharing the same warm water, all of it keeping you soft company as you sink towards sleep. Watch the long-necked swimmers a while, those gentle giants with their slender necks reaching out ahead of them through the green. There is no haste in them at all. They move their broad paddles slowly, slowly, 4 of them rowing in easy turn, and the long neck sways gently as they go, reaching softly here and there through the water. They are among the calmest creatures in all the sea, great peaceful shapes drifting through the green like something out of a dream, and to watch one pass is to feel the whole pace of the world slow down to match it. Let it slow you too. Let the long, slow rowing of the gentle swimmer set the rhythm of your breathing, easy and even and deep, as you drift along beside it through the warm and quiet water. And watch the great turtles, oldest and most patient of the sea's travellers, rowing by on their wide flippers with their calm, unblinking eyes. They have been crossing these warm waters since long before the great lizards grew so vast, and they will go on crossing seas long after, and they carry all that long endurance in their slow and steady rowing. There is no fear in a great turtle, and no hurry, only the long, patient crossing, flipper stroke by flipper stroke, through the warm green water toward wherever it is going. To drift beside one is to borrow a little of that deep calm, that ancient unhurried patience, the sense that there is time enough for everything and no need ever to rush. Let the patient turtle teach you its slowness now as you settle deeper toward rest. So let the whole gentle community of the warm sea drift around you, near and far, soft shapes moving slowly through the green, keeping you company in the quiet water. There is room for all of them here, and room for you, and none of them disturbs the calm. They share the warmth and the soft light and the long slow rhythm of the swell, and they ask nothing of one another but the room to drift. It is a peaceable kingdom, this warm sea, in its quiet way, a whole world of creatures moving gently through the green together, and you belong among them now, one more soft shape drifting toward rest in the company of all the rest. Breathe in, slowly, breathe out more slowly still, and let the gentle companions of the current carry you, in their good company, down into sleep. Let us speak now, gently, of the hunt, for the mosasaur is a hunter, and we would not know it truly if we pretended otherwise. But we will speak of it softly, the way you might speak of a storm seen far off across a calm bay, a thing of great power that does not, tonight, touch you at all. The hunt in this sea is a quiet business, far quieter than you might imagine, and there is nothing in it that need trouble your rest. Let the great lizard show us, slowly, how it lives, and let us watch with the same calm the sea itself keeps. Begin with the waiting, for the hunt is mostly waiting. The mosasaur hangs in the cool green twilight, below the bright surface and above the dim floor. And it is still, almost perfectly still, the great paddles making only the smallest adjustments to hold it level in the current. Its high-set eyes are turned upward, watching the brighter water above, where the shapes of fish move silhouetted against the silver ceiling. It is not impatient. It does not fret. It has done this 10,000 times, and it knows that if it simply waits, in stillness, the sea will eventually bring something within reach. The waiting is not a hardship to it. The waiting is the greater part of its life, and it has made its peace with that, the way an old fisherman makes peace with the long quiet hours by the water. There is a great economy in this stillness, and it is worth understanding why. To move through water costs energy, and energy must be replaced by food, and food must be caught by moving. And so a creature that moves too much can spend more than it gains, and slowly starve in the midst of plenty. The mosasaur has learned the opposite lesson. It moves as little as it can, it hangs in the water, spending almost nothing, and it strikes only when the striking is nearly certain, and in this way it stays always ahead of its own hunger, calm and unhurried, never desperate, never rushed. Its stillness is not laziness. Its stillness is wisdom, the deep wisdom of the sea, which is to spend nothing you do not have to spend. Now watch the moment of the strike, and watch how brief it is. A fish, or a soft drifting creature, or one of the shelled swimmers, passes within the narrow circle of the mosasaur's reach. The great lizard does not chase it across the sea. It has positioned itself, across all those patient minutes, precisely so that it will not have to. With a single powerful sweep of its great finned tail it surges forward, faster for one instant than you would have believed such a calm creature could move, and its long jaws close, and it is done. The whole strike lasts no longer than a held breath, and then the stillness returns, and the great lizard settles back into the green, and the sea closes over the moment as if it had never been. That is the truth of the hunt, that it is mostly stillness, with a single, brief surge at its heart, and then stillness again. It is not the long, desperate chase you might imagine. It is not a war. It is a single, quiet act, performed with great skill and great economy, and then a return and whilst. The mosasaur does not exult. It does not linger over its catch in any cruel way. It takes what it needs and settles back into the patient waiting, and within moments the sea around it is calm again, as calm as before, the green light coming down in soft columns, the ammonites turning slowly in the distance, the whole vast peace of the ocean undisturbed. And consider, gently, what the hunt truly is, beneath the surface of the act. It is the passing of energy from one life to another, the same passing that happens everywhere in the sea and everywhere in the world. The sunlight falls on the bright water, and is gathered by the smallest drifting creatures. The small creatures are eaten by the larger ones, and the larger by larger still, and so the warmth of the sun travels slowly upward through the sea, from the least to the greatest, until it reaches the great lizard at the top, and warms its blood, and lets it live another quiet day. The hunt is only the moving of the sun's warmth from one body to another. There is nothing in it, in the end, but the patient sharing out of light. The mosasaur, of course, knows none of this. It does not think of energy, or of sunlight, or of the great web of the sea. It only knows hunger and stillness, and the brief surge of the strike and the calm that follows. But you, drifting here, can know it, and in knowing it you can see the hunt for what it truly is. Not a horror, but a rhythm. Not a war, but a turning, as natural and as necessary as the rising of the great lizard to breathe, or the falling of the soft white snow upon the floor. The sea is not cruel. The sea is only honest, and in its honesty it is, in the end, deeply calm. Watch, too, how the hunted creatures live, for they do not live in terror, whatever you might think. The fish that cruise the bright water are not frantic. The ammonites that turn in the green are not afraid. They go about their slow lives in the same calm the hunters keep, feeding and drifting and resting, and the danger of the great lizard is to them only one fact of the sea among many, no more troubling than the cold of the deep or the dimming of the light. They do not spend their days dreading the strike. They simply live, and when the strike comes, for one of them, it comes quickly and is over, and the rest go on living as before. There is a kind of peace even in being prey, the peace of a creature that does not borrow tomorrow's troubles. There is a balance in all this, a balance the sea keeps without trying, and it is one of the most restful things to understand about the whole war motion. The great lizards do not eat the sea empty. They cannot, for if they did, they would starve, and so the very hunger that drives them also limits them. They take only what the sea can spare, because that is all the sea will give, and the creatures they hunt go on breeding faster than they are taken, and so the whole great web stays full and turning, year upon year, age upon age, hunters and hunted alike held in a slow equilibrium that no one designed and no one maintains, and yet that holds, somehow, of its own accord, the way a spinning top holds itself upright as long as it keeps turning. Let us follow the great lizard now as it settles, fed and calm, back into the green to rest. The hunt is over for a while. It will not need to feed again for some time, and so it has no reason to move, and it does not move, hanging in the cool water with its great body relaxed and its eyes half-lidded, digesting slowly in the patient way of its kind. There is something deeply restful in a fed and resting hunter, a creature with nothing left to want for the moment, no hunger pressing it, no need driving it, simply hanging in the warm green water in a state very like contentment. You know that state. You are drifting toward it now. Imagine the slow hours of that digesting rest. The light shifts and dims and brightens again as the day wears on above the silver ceiling. The current moves the great lizard gently, and it lets itself be moved, too at ease to hold its place. The other creatures of the sea drift by, the long-necked swimmer, the great turtle, the turning ammonites, and the resting mosasaur watches them pass with mild and lidded eyes, and troubles none of them, for it has no need. A fed hunter is the most peaceful creature in the sea. It has done the one hard thing the day required of it, and now there is nothing left to do but rest, and it rests completely, the way only a creature without worry can. There is a lesson in that fed and resting calm, if you care to take one into sleep with you, and it is a gentle one. It is that the hard thing, once done, is done, and that after it there is rest, true rest, rest without guilt or hurry or the gnawing of the next thing. The mosasaur does not lie in the green water fretting about tomorrow's hunger. Tomorrow's hunger will come tomorrow, and tomorrow it will hunt again, and tonight it simply rests, full and easy, asking nothing of the hours but that they pass slowly. You might let yourself rest that way tonight. You might let the hard things of your own day be done, now, truly done, and let the night be only for resting. The sea darkens further toward evening as the great lizard rests, and you rest with it, the two of you hanging in the deepening green, fed and unhurried and calm. The hunt, which might have been the most fearful part of our long night, has passed by softly, the way a far storm passes, leaving the bay as calm as before. You have seen what the great lizard does to live, and you have seen that it is not terrible, only natural, only the quiet sharing out of the sun's warmth from one life to another. And you have seen that even the hunter, when it has done its work, knows how to rest. Now, it is your turn to learn the same. Let your body grow as heavy and as easy as the resting lizard's. Let the warm green water hold the whole weight of you, as it holds the whole weight of the great creature drifting near you in the dusk. There is nothing left to hunt tonight, nothing left to chase, nothing left to do. The day's one hard surge is behind you. The long calm of the fed and resting hours is all that lies ahead. Breathe in slowly, with the lifting swell. Breathe out more slowly still, and let yourself settle, fed and calm and unhurried, into the deepening green of the Cretaceous evening, where even the great hunters are, at last, at rest. Let us stay a moment longer with this gentlest of truths about the hunt, that it was, almost always, mostly stillness. We imagine the great hunters of the sea as creatures of constant motion and violence, but the truth is far quieter and far more restful. The great lizard spent the vast share of its long life doing nothing at all but hanging easy in the green water, resting, drifting, waiting, breathing its slow breaths. The brief moments of the hunt were islands in a wide, calm sea of stillness, and the stillness, not the striking, was the truth of the creature's days. So when you picture the great lizard now, picture it at rest, as it almost always was, hanging motionless and peaceful in the soft green light, in no hurry, needing nothing, simply being. That is the truest image of it, and the most restful, and you may hold it as you drift, and think, gently, of how the great lizard rested after it had fed, for that is the softest part of the whole quiet story. When it had taken what it needed, the great hunter would sink, slowly, into the calm green deep, and there it would hang, utterly at ease, the long body loose, the broad paddles still, the slow breaths coming and going in their own unhurried time. It was full and warm and safe, and it had nothing left to do but rest, and so it rested, completely, the way only a creature with nothing to fear can rest. There is a deep peace in that image, the great lizard hanging satisfied and easy in the warm green water, and you may share that peace now. You too may set down the day's needs. You too may hang loose and easy in the warmth, full and safe and finished with nothing left to do but rest. Consider too how the energy of the sun passed so gently up through all of this, from the bright water to the smallest creatures to the larger and larger still, until it reached the great lizard at the top, and how the whole of it was, in the end, only the warmth of sunlight moving slowly through living things. The hunt was not really violence, seen rightly. It was only the sun's warmth being passed along, from one creature to the next, up the long, gentle ladder of the sea, so that the light that fell on the bright surface might, in time, warm even the great lizard resting in the deep. It is a quiet and beautiful thing, that passing along of light, and there is nothing fearful in it. Let it ease you. Everything in the warm sea, even the hunt, was only sunlight, moving slowly, keeping the great calm world alive. So let the hunt fade now into the larger stillness that always surrounded it, the way a single ripple fades back into a calm pond. The brief, swift moment is over almost before it began, and the great quiet returns, the long ease, the soft green hanging, the slow breathing in the warm water. This is where the great lizard lived, in the stillness, and this is where you may live now too, as you drift towards sleep. Not in the swift moment, but in the long calm around it, the wide and patient peace that filled almost all the creature's days and may now fill your night. Breathe in slowly, breathe out more slowly still, and let the soft stillness that surrounded even the hunt settle over you completely and carry you down into rest. Dwell a while on the deep calm of the sea once everything has fed, for it is one of the most peaceful states the warm ocean ever knew. When the great lizard had taken what it needed, and the smaller creatures had taken what they needed, and the warmth of the sun had passed quietly up through them all, then a great ease would settle over the whole sea. The hunters rested, full and content. The hunted that remained grazed easy in the green, the danger past for now, and the whole warm ocean hung in a kind of satisfied stillness. Every creature with enough, nothing wanting, nothing hurrying, the long calm balance of a world that has been fed. Picture that fed and easy sea, all its creatures resting in the warm green, and let its deep contentment become your own. You have enough. You want for nothing. You may rest, full and easy, in the calm. Think of how rarely, truly, the sea was troubled. We tell the story of the hunt because it is part of the sea's life, but it was the smallest part, a brief stir in a vast and patient calm. For every swift moment of the hunt there were countless long hours of peace, the creatures of the sea simply drifting, resting, grazing easy in the green, going about their slow lives untroubled and unafraid. The warm sea was, far more than anything else, a place of peace, a wide, gentle world where most of life, most of the time, was calm. That is the truth to carry with you towards sleep. Not the brief stir, but the long calm around it. The vast and patient peace that was the sea's true nature, and that may now be yours. And rest in the balance of it all, the great gentle equilibrium that held the warm sea steady across the long ages. Nothing in the sea took more than the sea could give. The creatures and their numbers, the hunters and the hunted, the bright pasture of tiny lives and all that fed upon it, all of it held in a slow and patient balance, each part sustaining the others, the whole great system turning gently and steadily, neither racing nor failing, simply continuing, calm and whole, year upon year upon year. There is profound rest in that kind of balance. The rest of a world in steady, gentle order, nothing straining, nothing breaking, everything held in its quiet place. Let that balanced calm settle over you. Breathe in slowly, in time with the steady sea. Breathe out more slowly still, and rest in the long, gentle balance of the warm and patient ocean. We are halfway through the long night now, and if you are still with me, drifting somewhere between waking and sleep, that is exactly where you should be. If some part of you is still awake enough to do one small kind thing, you might subscribe, so that the next slow story finds you easily when you return. But let it be the lightest of gestures, and let it cost you nothing of the calm you have gathered. Then let your hand fall still, and let the warm water take you again, and we will drift on together into the deeper part of the night. Let the current carry you upward now, back toward the brighter water near the surface. For there is a tender thing happening there in the warm shallows, and it is one of the gentlest secrets of the whole sea. Up here, where the light is soft and the water is warmest, the great lizards bring their young into the world, and the bright surface country becomes, for a season, a kind of nursery, a cradle of warm water where the smallest mosasaurs take their first slow swimming breaths of life. Come up into the light with me, gently, and let us watch. You will remember, from the story of the long return, that the sea lizards gave up the land entirely, and with it gave up the laying of eggs upon the shore. A creature whose legs have become paddles cannot climb a beach. And so the mosasaurs did a remarkable and tender thing. They learned to give birth in the open water, far from any land, bringing their young into the world already formed, already swimming, born not into the air and the sand, but directly into the warm embrace of the sea. The young mosasaur never knows the land at all. Its very first moment is a moment in the water, held by the same warm sea that will hold it all its life. Imagine that first moment. Gently, the mother hangs in the warm, bright water near the surface, and the young one comes into the world beside her, small and perfect, a tiny image of the great creature it will one day become, with its own small paddles and its own small finned tail and its own bright, watchful eyes. And it does not fall, it does not flounder. It simply begins, at once, to swim, the swimming wave already written into its small body, the side-to-side motion already known, and it rises a little toward the light, and takes the warm water into its small lungs and breathes, and its life has begun. There was no shore to struggle up, there was no egg to break, there was only the warm sea, and the young one was already part of it. We know this happened, that the mosasaurs were born this way, because the stone has kept the proof. In a few rare places, the bones of the unborn young have been found nestled within the bodies of their mothers, and in others, the bones of the newly born have been found far out in waters, where no creature could ever have crawled ashore to lay an egg. These are among the most touching discoveries the rock has given us, for they let us see, across all the long ages, the great lizards as mothers, carrying their young within them, bringing them forth into the open sea. It makes the mosasaur something more than a hunter. It makes it a parent, and parents are a thing we understand. The young are born small, but they are born ready, and that readiness is the gift the live birth gives them. A creature hatched from an egg upon a shore must struggle, helpless and slow, down to the water, exposed all the while to every danger. But the young mosasaur skips that perilous beginning entirely. It is born already swimming, already breathing, already shaped for the only world it will ever know, and so it begins its life with a head start that the shore-born creatures never have. The sea that asked the mosasaurs to give up the land gave them this in return, this gentlest of beginnings, a birth directly into the holding water. Watch a young one now, drifting near its mother in the bright surface water. It is small enough that you could cup it in your 2 hands, were this not a dream, and it moves with a quick and eager grace, darting and turning in the warm shallows, learning its own body, learning the water, learning the swimming wave. It was born knowing but must still practice to perfect. There is a brightness to it, a newness, the way there is to all young things, and the warm surface country is full of such brightness in the birthing season, full of small new lives turning and darting in the soft light, each one beginning the long, quiet story of a mosasaur's life. The surface waters make a good nursery, and it is worth understanding why, gently. Up here the water is warmest, and warmth is kind to the small and the new. Up here the light is brightest, and in the bright water the small fish gather thickest, the small soft creatures, the easy first food of a young hunter learning its trade. And up here, in the bright shallows, the great dangers of the deeper water are fewer. The young mosasaur can begin its life in the safest, warmest, most generous part of the whole sea, the soft upper skin of the ocean, before it grows large enough and bold enough to descend, in time, into the cooler, deeper country below. Whether the mothers stayed near their young, we cannot fully know, for the stone keeps some secrets it will not give up. Perhaps the young were left to fend for themselves at once, as the young of many sea creatures are, born ready and then born free. Or perhaps the mothers lingered near them in the warm shallows for a time, a great calm presence in the bright water, while the small ones found their strength. We cannot say for certain, but it is no harm, on a quiet night, to imagine the gentler version, the great mother lizard hanging easy in the warm surface water while her small bright young dart and turn around her, learning the sea under the soft shadow of her body. The stone allows us that much. The young grow quickly in the generous shallows, feeding on the small abundant life of the bright water, and as they grow they venture a little deeper, a little further, testing the cooler green below, returning to the warm surface to rest. It is the same slow ranging outward that every young thing does, the gradual widening of a small life's world, and there is something deeply familiar in it, something that touches the part of you that remembers being small in a large world and learning, little by little, how to move through it. The young mosasaur learns the sea the way you learned your own world, one cautious widening circle at a time, and as it grows the swimming wave grows surer in its body, the side-to-side motion smoothing from the eager dart of the very young into the long easy glide of the mature. The small paddles grow broad and strong, the small finned tail deepens and learns its power. The bright watchful eyes learn to read the water, to find the silhouettes of fish against the silver ceiling, to judge the moment of the strike. The young hunter is becoming, slowly, across the seasons, the great calm lord of the sea it was born to be, and every part of that becoming happens in the warm and patient water, gently, without hurry, in the long generous days of the Cretaceous. There is a great tenderness in this whole picture, the nursery of the warm shallows, the small bright young darting in the light, the great calm mothers, the slow growing into itself of each new life. The mosasaur is, in our imagination, so often only the hunter, the great jawed lord of the deep, and it was that. But it was also this, a creature born small and tender into a warm sea, a young thing learning its world, a life that began as gently as any life begins. To hold both pictures at once, the great hunter and the small bright newborn, is to see the mosasaur whole, and to feel a kindness toward it that the hunter alone could never quite earn. Rest a while in the bright warm nursery water then, among the small new lives. Let the warmth of it reach you. It is the warmest, softest, gentlest part of the whole sea, this upper cradle where the young begin, and there is no better place to drift as the night deepens and your own body grows heavy towards sleep. The small mosasaurs dart and turn in the soft light around you, untroubled by your presence, each one a bright new beginning in an ancient sea, and you may drift among them as easily as a leaf drifts on a warm pond, held, weightless, at peace. Think, if you like, of how far each of these small lives reaches forward into the great story of the sea. Each one of these bright young creatures, if it lives, will grow into one of the great calm lords of the water, will range the warm ocean for years, will rise to breathe 10,000 times, will know the bright surface and the dim floor and all the layered green between, and one day, far off, it may bring its own young into this same warm nursery water, and the story will begin again, as it has begun and begun across uncounted seasons, the slow turning of life through the generations, gentle and patient and without end. You are watching one small turn of a wheel that has turned since long before you came. The light is softening toward evening again, as it does, and the small young mosasaurs slow their darting and settle into the warm surface water to rest, hanging easy in the soft light beside the great calm shapes of the older ones. The whole nursery quiets toward the dusk. The bright water dims to green, the green to the blue of evening, and the small new lives drift gently into the stillness that comes to all the sea at nightfall. They have had a long day of learning, of growing, of widening their small worlds, and now they rest, as you are resting, held by the same warm water gathered into the same soft dark. Breathe in slowly, breathe out more slowly still. And let the gentlest country of the sea, the warm nursery of the bright shallows, hold you a while longer as you drift on towards sleep. Rest here a while in the warm shallows of the nursery, for there is no gentler place in all the sea, and no image more tender to carry down towards sleep. The water here is shallow and warm and bright, lit softly all the way to the pale sandy floor, sheltered from the deeper currents, calm as a cradle. It is the kindest corner of the whole warm ocean, and it was here, in this gentle brightness, that the new lives came into the world. Picture it, the soft sunlit water, the pale floor close below, the warmth like a held breath, and into this gentlest of places the young were born, already swimming, already at home. There could be no softer beginning, and there is no softer place to rest your drowsy mind than here, in the warm, bright shallows of the nursery, where every new life began in calm. Think of the newborn lizard then, taking its first slow motions in the warm, shallow water, and let the tenderness of it ease you. It is born already knowing how to swim, already fitted to the water, needing no lessons and no long helplessness. It moves its small paddles gently and finds that it can hold itself in the green, and it rises, slowly, in its own first unhurried time, to break the bright surface and take its first soft breath of the open air, and then it sinks back, easy, into the warm shallows that hold it. From its very first moment it belongs to the sea, completely, and the sea receives it, gently, the way the warm water has received every new life since the beginning. There is such peace in that welcome, such complete belonging, and you may feel it now as your own, and dwell, softly, on the warmth that surrounded those young lives, for warmth is the truest gift of the nursery shallows. The young needed warmth above all, warmth to grow, warmth to keep their small bodies easy, and the shallow sunlit water gave it freely, soaking up the sun all the long day and holding it through the gentle dark. To be a newborn in the warm shallows was to be wrapped, always, in that soft and even heat, held by it on every side, never cold, never alone in the cold, but cradled in the warmth of the bright water as completely as a child wrapped warm against the night. Let yourself be wrapped that way now. Let the remembered warmth of the nursery shallows fold around you, soft and even and complete, holding you on every side as you sink towards sleep. So let the gentle nursery hold you, here at the warm, bright edge of the sea, where every great lizard's life began in calm and warmth and safety. The young drift in the shallows, small and easy, rising slow to breathe and sinking soft to rest, held by the warm water and the bright light and the shelter of the quiet shallows. It is the beginning of everything, this gentle place, and it is as restful as any ending, as full of peace as any close. There is nothing here but warmth and softness, and the slow, easy motion of new life finding itself at home in the kind water. Breathe in slowly, breathe out more slowly still, and let the warm, bright nursery of the sea cradle you, gently, all the way down into sleep. Dwell a while on how this gentle beginning repeated, season upon season, across the long ages, for there is deep comfort in that faithful return. Each warm season, when the shallows lay bright and calm, the new lives came, as they had come the season before, and the season before that, back and back through more years than the mind can hold. The warm shallows received each new generation as gently as they had received the last, the same soft sunlit water, the same pale floor close below, the same even warmth holding the young as they found their first slow motions in the green. Generation after generation, the gentle nursery did its quiet work, faithfully, tenderly, never failing, never hurrying, cradling each new beginning in the same warm light. There is profound peace in that faithfulness, the long, unbroken return of gentleness, season upon season, and you may rest your weight upon it now. Think of the long chain of life it made, each generation rising from the warm shallows to live its full life in the green sea and then, in its own time, returning some new generation to those same bright shallows, on and on, a soft, unbroken thread of life running back through the ages, and forward beyond imagining. No single life stood alone. Each was a link in that gentle chain, held by the ones before and holding the ones after, all of them cradled, in their turn, by the same warm, patient shallows. There is a quiet belonging in that, a sense of being part of something long and gentle and continuous, and you may feel it now as your own, one quiet link in the long, soft chain of living things, held by all that came before, resting easy in your place. Breathe in slowly, breathe out more slowly still, and let the long, faithful gentleness of the warm shallows hold you, generation upon generation, all the way down into sleep. We have spoken of the mosasaur as though there were only one, a single great calm lizard hanging in the green water. But there was never only one. The mosasaurs were a whole family, a wide and varied kindred, and they came in many shapes and many sizes, from the small and slender to the vast and mighty, each one suited to its own way of living in the warm sea. Let us drift among them now, and meet a few of the different faces of the mosasaur, gently, the way you might turn the pages of a quiet book of cousins, each one familiar, and each one its own. Some of the sea lizards were small, by the measure of their kind, slim and quick and graceful, no longer than a tall person, darting through the bright upper water after the small, swift fish. These slender ones were the most agile of the family, the most nimble, turning and twisting in the green with an ease the great ones could never match. They were the swallows of the sea lizards, light and fast and elegant, and they filled the warm shallows in great numbers, the most numerous and least fearsome of the mosasaurs, hunters of small things, themselves the prey, sometimes, of their larger cousins. There was a place in the sea for the small and quick, and they kept it well. Others were of a middling size, broad and capable, the steady everyday lords of the open water, neither the smallest nor the greatest, the sort of mosasaur you first watched hovering in the green at the start of our night. These were the most ordinary of the great lizards, if any such creature can be called ordinary, the reliable middle of the family, hunting the medium fish and the drifting creatures, ranging the warm sea in their patient, unhurried way. If you imagine a mosasaur, it is most likely one of these you imagine, the calm middle creature, long and smooth and watchful, the steady heart of the whole varied kindred. And then there were the great ones, and we must speak of them with a kind of soft awe, for they grew vast indeed. The largest of the mosasaurs were among the greatest hunters the sea has ever held, longer than the largest crocodile, longer than a bus, as long as some of the great whales of your own age, their bodies deep and powerful, their jaws long enough to take in creatures that the smaller lizards could only flee. They were the unchallenged lords of the warm sea, fearing nothing, hunted by nothing, moving through the green with the absolute calm of creatures at the very top of their world. To watch one of the great ones pass is to feel something very near to reverence, even in a dream. Among the greatest was the one that gave the whole family its name, a vast sea lizard of the latest Cretaceous, a creature of the warm seas near the end of the age of reptiles. It grew to an enormous length, with a massive head and powerful jaws, and it ruled the surface waters of its sea as completely as any creature has ever ruled anything. We will hear its particular story later, at the very end of our night, for it was the first of all the mosasaurs to be found again and known, the one whose discovery, ages later, beneath a quiet hill, gave a name to the entire kindred. For now it is enough to know that it was real, and vast, and calm, and that it swam these very seas. But size is not the only way the mosasaurs differed, and some of the loveliest differences were in their teeth, and in what those teeth were made to do. Most of the sea lizards had the curved and pointed teeth of fish catchers, made for holding the slippery and the swift. But one kind of mosasaur did something altogether different and quietly wonderful. Its teeth were not pointed at all, but round, broad and blunt and domed, like rows of smooth river stones set in its jaws, and they were made not for piercing but for crushing. This was a shellcracker, a sea lizard that lived not by chasing fish but by gathering the hard-shelled creatures of the floor, the ammonites and the clams and the slow-armored things, and cracking them gently open between its round and patient teeth. Imagine that shell-cracking lizard at its quiet work, moving slowly along the pale floor of the sea, nosing among the soft white mud for the shelled creatures that shelter there. It finds one, a clam perhaps, or one of the turning ammonites come to rest, and it takes it gently into its jaws, and with a slow and unhurried pressure of its round teeth, it cracks the shell and takes the soft creature within. There is nothing swift or fearsome in it. It is the gentlest kind of hunting, slow and methodical, a creature grazing the floor of the sea the way a cow grazes a meadow, patient and untroubled, gathering its quiet harvest, one shell at a time. That a single family could hold both the swift fish catcher of the bright water and the slow shell cracker of the dim floor tells you something restful about the warm sea and about life itself. There was room in this ocean for many ways of living, and the mosasaurs found and filled them all, branching and varying across the ages into a whole spectrum of creatures, each one fitted to its own corner of the sea. The small quick ones took the small swift fish, the great ones took the large prey of the open water, the shell crackers took the hard, slow creatures of the floor, and so the family as a whole came to fill the sea from top to bottom, a single kindred wearing many faces, each face turned toward a different part of the generous water. There were differences, too, in the way the various lizards swam and moved. Some were long and slender, built for the quick turn and the sudden dart. Others were deep and powerful, built for the strong, steady cruise. Some kept to the bright surface water all their lives. Others ranged down into the cooler green, or moved slowly across the dim floor. Some were creatures of the open sea, far from any land. Others kept closer to the coasts, in the warm shallows near the drowned edges of the continents. The family spread itself across every kind of water the warm sea offered, and in each kind a different face of the mosasaur arose to make that water its home. And the family changed across time, as well as across the sea. The mosasaurs we are drifting among, in the latest part of the Cretaceous, were the final and most fully developed of their line, but they had not always been so. Earlier in the age, the sea lizards had been smaller, simpler, less completely shaped to the water, and across the long span of the Cretaceous they had grown larger, and more varied and more perfectly fitted to the sea, branching into ever more kinds, filling ever more corners of the water. The great variety you see around you now is the fruit of that long branching. The whole family arrived at last, at the fullest flowering of its kind, the most complete and varied it would ever be. Let yourself drift among them then, the many faces of the mosasaur, and feel the richness of it. Here a small, slender one darts after fish in the bright surface water. There a great one hangs in the green, vast and calm, the unchallenged lord of the open sea. Below, on the pale floor, a round-toothed shell-cracker moves slowly through the soft mud at its quiet grazing. All around, in every size and shape, the sea lizards move through their warm ocean, a single family wearing 100 forms, and the whole sea is full of them, the most complete and varied rulers the warm waters had ever known. There is a deep satisfaction in this variety, in seeing how thoroughly a single kind of creature came to fill its world. The mosasaurs did not leave much of the sea unclaimed. From the bright surface to the dim floor, from the swift small fish to the hard slow shells, from the open ocean to the coastal shallows, the great lizards had found a way to live in nearly all of it, branching and varying until there was scarcely a corner of the warm water that did not have its own mosasaur, its own face of the family, fitted to that place and that way of living. The sea was theirs, top to bottom, in all its parts, and they wore it well, and yet, for all their variety, they were unmistakably one kindred. Whatever its size, whatever its teeth, whatever its corner of the sea, every mosasaur carried the same long, smooth body, the same 4 paddles, the same deep-finned tail, the same high-set watchful eyes, the same need to rise and breathe. They were all, the smallest and the greatest, the swift and the slow, the same creature at heart, the same answer to the same long question the sea had asked their ancestors across the ages. To drift among them is to see a single idea explored 100 ways, a single shape varied into a whole family, the same calm sea lizard wearing all its many faces at once. The light is dimming again toward the evening, as it always does, and the many mosasaurs slow their varied movements and settle, each in its own part of the sea, into the stillness of the coming night. The small quick ones grow calm in the dimming surface water. The great ones hang motionless in the darkening green. The shellcrackers cease their grazing on the floor and rest. The whole varied family quiets together as the dusk comes down. 100 faces of the same creature falling still in the same softening water, and you fall still among them, held by the same warm sea. Breathe in slowly, breathe out more slowly still, and rest now among the many faces of the mosasaur as the long Cretaceous evening gathers them, and you, gently into its calm. Drift a while among all these many kindred shapes, and let their variety soothe rather than busy you, for there is a deep restfulness in how completely the warm sea was filled. In every layer, in every corner, in every way of living the sea offered, some great lizard had found its gentle place. The small slender ones threaded the bright shallows, the middling ones cruised the soft green middle waters, the great ones moved through the deeper dim, the round-toothed ones drowsed near the floor where the shelled creatures lived. No part of the sea was empty of them, and yet none was crowded, for each kind kept to its own gentle way, and the warm water had room for all. Picture the whole sea filled, top to bottom, with these many peaceful shapes, each in its proper place, and let the completeness of it ease you, the sense of a world fully and gently inhabited. Think of the smallest of the kindred, the slender quick ones no longer than your arm, slipping easily through the bright warm shallows among the small fish and the drifting weed. They lived gentle lives in the gentlest water, never growing vast, never needing to, content with the small warm world of the shallows and the small soft prey it offered. There is a sweetness in them, these little cousins of the giants, going about their quiet lives in the bright water, and a reminder that not everything in the sea was great and deep. Some of it was small and near the surface, and simple and easy. Let the small, slender ones remind you that you need not be vast to belong, that there is a place in the warm sea even for the smallest and quietest of lives, and a place in this night for the smallest and quietest of you. And think of the very greatest of the kindred, the deep giants moving slow through the dim lower water, so large that the smaller creatures simply made way for them, not in fear so much as in the natural deference the small give the great. They did not need to hurry, the great ones. The sea was theirs, and they moved through it with the unhurried certainty of creatures, with nothing to prove and nothing to fear, slow and vast and calm in the deep green dim. There is a particular peace in the very large and very calm, the peace of great untroubled strength at rest, and you may borrow a little of it now. Picture the great deep giant drifting slow through the dim, immense and easy and unafraid, and let its vast calm become your calm, its unhurried certainty your own. So let the whole great family of the warm sea drift through your darkening mind, all its many shapes and sizes, from the small slender ones in the bright shallows to the vast slow giants in the deep, each in its gentle place, filling the warm water from top to bottom with quiet life. It was a sea wholly and peacefully inhabited, every layer of it home to some kindred shape, and there is deep rest in that fullness, the rest of a world complete, a world with a place for everything and everything in its place. You have a place in it too, tonight, drifting among the many faces of the warm sea, one more quiet shape settling toward the floor of sleep. Breathe in slowly, breathe out more slowly still, and let the whole gentle family of the sea carry you, in all its peaceful variety, down into rest. Let us drift slowly past the many kinds now, one after another, gently, the way you might let quiet shapes pass by at the edge of sleep, asking nothing, simply watching them go. Here comes a slender small one, threading the bright shallows, quick and easy, gone in a moment into the weed and the light. And here, deeper, a middling one cruising the soft green, unhurried, its long body swaying gently as it goes, passing slowly by and on into the dim. And here, deeper still, the slow shape of a great one, vast and calm, moving through the lower water with the unhurried certainty of the truly large, passing like a slow cloud and fading gently into the green. One by one they pass, the many kinds, drifting by in the soft light, and you need only watch them go, slowly, gently, until your eyes grow heavy with the watching. And here, near the patient floor, comes one of the round-toothed ones, the gentle shell crushers, drowsing along the soft pale ground where the slow-shelled creatures live. It moves without haste, low and easy, browsing the floor the way a quiet grazing thing browses a meadow, untroubled, unhurried, perfectly at home in its dim and gentle corner of the sea. There is something especially restful in this one, so low and slow and peaceable, going gently about its quiet living down in the calm where the light grows faint. Watch it drift along the soft floor, easy and unbothered, and let its low, slow peace settle into you, drawing you gently downward too, toward the patient floor, toward the quiet, toward rest. So let them all drift past you, the whole gentle family of the warm sea, the small and the middling and the great, the swift bright ones and the slow deep ones, and the low quiet grazers of the floor, each in its place, each in its unhurried way, passing slowly through the soft green light and gone. You need not follow any of them. You need only let them pass, gently, one after another, soft shapes drifting by in the warm water, growing dimmer and fewer as your eyes grow heavy and the green grows deep. Breathe in slowly and watch another pass. Breathe out more slowly still and let it go. And let the gentle passing of the many kinds carry you, softly, down past watching, down past thought, all the way into sleep. Let us go down once more to the pale floor of the sea, all the way down through the layered green to the soft white country at the bottom, and let us rest there a while, and understand it, for the floor of this sea is a place of deep and quiet wonder. It is made, this pale floor, of a substance you would know if you saw it in your own world, for it is chalk, the soft white stone, and the sea is making it now, slowly, grain by grain, out of the bodies of creatures too small to see. Come down with me to the white country, and let us watch the chalk being made. It begins far above, in the bright surface water, with the smallest creatures in the sea. The warm sunlit skin of the ocean is filled, beyond counting, with tiny living things, so small that millions of them could rest in a single drop of water, and many of these tiny creatures build for themselves small shells, or plates, or armour, out of the lime dissolved in the sea water. They are too small for you to see, even altogether they only faintly cloud the water, but they are there, uncountable, building their tiny lime houses in the bright water, living their brief small lives, and then, one by one, dying, as all things do, and when they die, they fall. Their tiny lime shells, no longer needed, drift down out of the bright water, down through the green twilight, down through the failing blue, down at last to the pale floor far below. Each one falls slowly, slowly, slower than the slowest snow, taking a long while to make the long descent. And there are so many of them, falling always everywhere, across the whole wide sea, that together they make a constant gentle snowfall, a soft white settling that never stops, day or night, season after season, age upon age. The floor of the sea is the place where all that falling finally comes to rest. Lie here on the soft white floor in a dream and look up and imagine that you can see it, the endless gentle snow of tiny shells drifting down out of the green toward you. It comes down soundlessly, weightlessly, each tiny grain too small to feel, but all of them together slowly, slowly deepening the white floor beneath you, layer upon layer, year upon year. It is the quietest snowfall in the world, and it has been falling since long before you came and will go on falling long after you are gone, the slow, patient settling of the smallest creatures of the sea into the white floor that holds them all. Across the ages, this gentle snowfall builds. Each year adds a little, a thin pale layer almost too small to measure, and the next year adds another upon it, and the next another, and across the long span of the Cretaceous these countless thin layers pile one upon another until they are not thin at all but deep, hundreds of feet deep, a vast pale country of accumulated shells stretching across the whole floor of the warm sea. And the weight of all the upper layers slowly presses the lower ones together, squeezing them, hardening them, until the soft white settling becomes soft white stone. This is how chalk is made. This is the sea writing itself down, grain by grain, into a book of pale stone that will outlast everything that swims above it. There is something almost unbearably gentle in this. When you let yourself feel it, the greatest and most lasting thing the sea makes, the deep white stone that will still be here ages after the mosasaurs are gone, is made not of the great creatures but of the smallest, not of the mighty lizards but of the tiny drifting motes too small to see. The great hunters live their brief fierce lives and vanish almost without a trace. But the smallest creatures, simply by being so many and falling so faithfully, build the very floor of the world, the lasting stone, the long memory of the sea. It is the meek, in the end, who make the ground that everything else stands upon, and the floor remembers more than its own making. For the soft white settling does not only bury the tiny shells that make it, now and then it buries other things as well, larger things, things that have fallen to the floor and come to rest there, and the gentle snow drifts down over them and covers them and holds them, soft and undisturbed, in the deepening white. A shell of an ammonite come to rest on the floor, a bone of a great fish, and sometimes, rarely, the long body of a mosasaur itself, settled at last onto the pale floor at the end of its life, slowly covered over by the patient falling snow, held and kept and remembered in the white stone forming around it. This is how the great lizards come down to us, across all the long ages, this slow, gentle burial in the soft white floor. A mosasaur that dies in the warm sea sinks, in time, to the pale country at the bottom, and there the endless snowfall of tiny shells drifts down over it, covering it gently, layer by patient layer, holding its bones in the deepening chalk, and the chalk hardens around the bones across the ages, keeping them, preserving them, writing them into the lasting stone, until, ages later, in a world the lizard could never have imagined, the stone is opened again, and the bones are found, and the great creature is known once more. The floor is the sea's memory, and it keeps what it is given a very long time. Rest here on the soft white floor a while longer, in the dim blue dusk of the deep, and feel how still it is, how patient, how kind. This is the calmest place in the whole sea, the still floor beneath all the moving water, and it is also the most faithful, the place that keeps and holds and remembers everything that comes to rest upon it. The great creatures move and hunt and breathe in the bright water far above, brief and fierce and beautiful, and then, one by one, they come down at last to the white floor, and the floor receives them, and holds them, and keeps them safe in the deepening stone. There is a deep comfort in that, in knowing that nothing in this sea is truly lost, that the floor remembers it all. Think of the floor as a vast, slow book then, the pages laid down one thin, pale layer at a time, the whole long story of the sea written into it in the language of falling shells. Read from the bottom up. The chalk tells the entire history of the warm ocean, age by age, layer by layer, each band of pale stone a record of a season of the sea's long life. And here and there in the pages of that book are pressed the larger memories, the ammonites and the fish and the great lizards, like flowers pressed in the leaves of an old book, kept perfectly in the pale stone, waiting through the ages to be read again. The sea forgets nothing that reaches its floor. And this slow writing is happening now, beneath you, even as you rest. The gentle snow of tiny shells is drifting down all around you, soundlessly, settling onto the soft white floor, adding its almost nothing to the deepening stone. The sea is writing this very moment into its long pale book, this moment in which you drift in a dream above its floor, this quiet hour of the Cretaceous evening. Long after the moment is past, the layer it laid down will remain, pressed into the chalk, a thin, pale page among the countless pages, the sea's own memory of a calm evening 70 million years before you were born. The floor is keeping even this. There is a great peace in lying above the white floor and feeling all of this, the endless gentle snowfall, the slow building of the lasting stone, the patient keeping of everything that comes to rest. It is the peace of knowing that the world remembers, that nothing faithful is wasted, that even the smallest creatures, simply by being so many and falling so quietly, build something that outlasts the mighty. The mosasaurs ruled the bright water above, but it is the tiny drifting motes, in the end, falling forever onto the soft white floor, who built the lasting world. And both of them, the great lizard and the tiny mote, come down at last to the same patient floor, and the floor keeps them both. Let the soft white country hold you a while in the dim blue quiet of the deep, The gentle snow drifts down all around you, settling, deepening, building the pale stone grain by patient grain. The floor stretches away in every direction further than the dim light will let you see, soft and white and still, the calmest and most faithful place in all the sea. There is nothing to fear in the deep floor, nothing at all. It is only the place where everything comes to rest, the place where the sea keeps its long memory, the place where, in time, even the great lizards come gently down to be held forever in the deepening white. The dim blue dusk deepens toward true dark as the evening wears on far above, and the floor grows quieter still, if such a thing is possible. The slow creatures that move across the white mud settle into stillness. The gentle snowfall goes on, soundless, faithful, building the pale stone in the dark as patiently as in the light. And you rest above it all, held by the warm water, watched over by the patient floor, drifting now very near to sleep. There is a great softness in this deepest and stillest country of the sea, and you may rest in it as long as you like. Breathe in slowly, breathe out more slowly still, and let the soft white floor, the sea's long memory, hold you gently as you drift on toward the dark. Let yourself settle now toward that soft, pale floor, gently, and rest your drowsy attention on the endless, quiet snowfall that built it, for there is nothing in all the sea more soothing to watch than this. Down through the green water always, everywhere, the tiniest motes are drifting, the small pale remnants of the countless tiny creatures of the bright water, sinking slowly, slowly toward the floor. They fall like the softest snow, without weight, without sound, a gentle, endless drifting down that has never once stopped across all the long ages of the sea. There is no hurry in their falling and no end to it, only the soft perpetual snow, sinking through the green, settling at last on the pale floor, building it grain by grain across time beyond imagining. Watch the gentle snowfall, and let it fall through you, and let your own thoughts drift down with it, slowly, toward the quiet floor. Think of how long, how unimaginably long, the floor took to build, and let the vastness of that time lay you down softly rather than astonish you. Grain by grain, mote by mote, the soft snow settled, and the floor rose, the thickness of a single hair across a human lifetime, and yet across the long ages it grew to the depth of hills, of mountains, all of it laid down by that gentlest of falls, that weightless, endless snow. No haste built the floor, only patience, the deepest patience there is, the patience of small, soft things settling slowly across spans of time the mind cannot hold. There is rest in that patience, a permission to let go of all hurry, for here is the whole great floor of the sea built by nothing but soft things drifting gently down. Taking all the time in the world, let yourself take all the time in the world too. And dwell, gently, on how the soft floor kept what settled into it, for this is the floor's deepest gift, the keeping. When a creature of the warm sea came at last to the end of its long life and sank, slowly, to the pale floor, the gentle snow drifted down over it, faithfully, covering it, holding it, folding it into the soft white ground. Nothing was lost there. The floor received whatever came to it, and kept it, patiently, in the deepening white, across all the long ages, asking nothing, forgetting nothing. It was the great keeper of the sea, the soft, pale memory into which everything eventually settled and was held. There is a profound comfort in that keeping, the sense of a place that loses nothing, that holds all that comes to it gently and forever. And you may rest in that comfort now, held as softly as anything the floor ever kept. So let the soft pale floor receive you now, gently, the way it received everything that settled toward it across the long ages. You are sinking toward it, slowly, through the green, with the soft snow drifting down all around you, and the floor is waiting below, patient and pale and infinitely calm, ready to hold you as it held all the rest. There is nothing to fear in that settling, and nothing to resist. It is only rest, the deepest and softest rest there is, the long quiet keeping of the floor of the ancient sea. The gentle snow falls, the pale floor waits, and you drift down toward it, easily, with nothing left to do but be held. Breathe in slowly, breathe out more slowly still, and let yourself settle softly onto the patient floor of the sea, into its deep and gentle keeping, all the way down into sleep. Rest now in the great quiet of the floor itself, the stillest place in all the warm sea, where the soft pale ground stretches away into the dim in every direction, undisturbed, untroubled, patient beyond all measure. Here, on the floor, the busy bright world of the surface is only a far green glow overhead, and the storms that cross the surface never come, and the currents that stir the upper water have faded almost to nothing. There is only the soft pale ground, and the faint silver dimness, and the gentle endless settling of the snow, and a quiet so deep and so complete that it seems to have been here since the beginning of the world. This is the floor of rest, the deep, calm bottom of everything, and you are settling toward it now, gently, into the stillest and most patient quiet the warm sea holds. Feel how nothing on the floor is ever in a hurry. The few slow creatures that live here move rarely and gently, browsing the soft ground, drifting low through the silver dim, settling and stirring and settling again across spans of unhurried time. The snow falls slowly. The ground deepens slowly. Even the light, what little reaches here, seems to move more slowly, a faint soft dimness barely changing through the long quiet hours. There is no haste anywhere on the floor of the warm sea, no urgency, no clock, only the deep, slow patience of the bottom of the world. Let your own last hurry settle here and cease. Let every quick and restless thing in you grow slow and slower, and come at last to rest on the soft pale floor, in the deep silver quiet, where nothing has ever needed to hurry at all. And let the floor hold you now, completely, the way it holds everything that settles onto it at last. You have drifted down through all the layers of the warm sea, through the bright surface and the calm green middle and the dim lower water, and now you have come to rest on the soft pale ground at the very bottom, where the gentle snow drifts down to cover you, and the deep quiet closes softly over you, and there is nothing left below you to sink toward, nothing left to do but be held. This is the floor of sleep, and you have reached it. Breathe in slowly, one last gentle breath. Breathe out more slowly still, and rest now on the soft pale floor of the ancient sea, held and covered and kept in the deep silver quiet, all the way down into sleep. The warm sea is not always calm at its surface, and tonight, in our long drifting, we may as well meet its weather, for there is a deep lesson of rest hidden in it. Far above the silver ceiling, the sky of the Cretaceous has its moods, its bright still mornings and its piling afternoon clouds, and, now and then, its storms. But here is the gentle secret of the sea, the secret the great lizards have always known. However wild the surface grows, the deep stays calm. The storm lives only in the thin skin at the very top of the water. Below it, the sea is as still as ever. Come down a little with me, and let us watch a storm pass over from beneath, in perfect safety, in perfect calm. It begins, far above, with a darkening. The clouds that have piled all afternoon over the warm water grow tall and heavy and lean together, and the bright gold of the surface dims as the sun is covered, and the silver ceiling, seen from below, turns from gold to grey, to a dark and troubled pewter. A wind rises across the face of the sea, though you cannot feel it down here, and the surface, which has rolled all day in long, slow swells, begins to chop and break, the smooth ceiling roughening into a churn of white and grey. The storm is coming to the top of the sea, but it is coming only to the top. Watch the great lizard's response, for it is the wisest response in the world, and it is simply this: it goes down. As the surface roughens and the light dims, the mosasaur, with one easy sweep of its tail, sinks a little deeper, down out of the troubled skin of the sea into the calmer green below, and there it hangs, untroubled, while the storm rages in the thin layer far above. It does not fight the storm. It does not ride it out at the surface, battered and tossed. It simply descends below it into the deep calm that the storm can never reach, and waits there, at ease, for the weather to pass. The whole storm, to the mosasaur, is only a roughness in the ceiling, a thing happening far overhead, no concern of its own. Come down with the great lizard, then, into the calm below the storm, and feel how complete the peace is here. Above you, in the thin, troubled skin of the sea, the wind tears at the surface, and the waves heave and break, and the rain hammers down, a whole world of fury and noise. But here, only a little way below, none of it reaches you. The water is still. The green is dim but calm. The swell that lifts you is gentle and slow, hardly changed at all by the storm raging overhead. You can look up and see the troubled ceiling churning grey and white far above, and feel, down here, nothing of it but the faintest stirring. The storm is real, and it is wild, and it cannot touch you at all. There is a great teaching in this, and you may carry it into sleep if you like. The storms of the world live at the surface. They tear at the thin, bright skin of things, the place of wind and weather and noise. But there is always a deeper place, below the surface, where the storm cannot reach, where the water is still and the peace is complete, and the wise creatures of the sea have always known the way down to it. When the weather of your own days grows wild, there is, in you too, a deeper place below the surface, a still green calm beneath the churning skin, and you can sink to it, as the mosasaur sinks, and let the storm rage harmlessly overhead while you rest, untroubled, in the deep. Listen, from down here, to the sound of the storm above, and hear how soft it is, how distant, the hammering of the rain on the surface, so loud and hard up there, reaches you only as a faint and steady hiss, a sound like a held breath, like static, like the soft white noise that lulls a restless mind. The crash of the breaking waves comes down as a low and rolling murmur, far off and gentle. Even the storm, heard from the calm deep, is a soothing sound, a soft and distant roar that does not threaten but only soothes, the sound of great power spending itself harmlessly far away, while you lie safe and still below. Let that soft, distant roaring lull you. It is the storm singing you to sleep. The great lizard hangs near you in the calm green, riding out the weather in perfect ease, and there is something deeply reassuring in its company. It is not afraid. It has met 1,000 storms, and it knows them for what they are. Brief disturbances of the surface, soon over, never reaching the deep. It simply waits, calm and patient, its great body relaxed, its eyes half-lidded, while the fury passes overhead. To rest beside such a creature, in the calm below the storm, is to borrow some of its deep certainty, the certainty that the weather will pass, that the deep will hold, that there is nothing in the storm worth troubling your rest over. It has ridden out every storm so far. It will ride out this one too, and so will you. Above, the storm reaches its height, the surface churning wild and grey, the rain coming down in torrents, the wind tearing white spray from the tops of the heaving waves. It is a great spectacle up there, a whole sky and sea in violent motion. But you watch it from the calm deep as you might watch a fire through a window on a cold night. The power and the fury held safely on the far side of the glass, unable to reach you, beautiful in its way precisely because it cannot touch you. The storm is magnificent. The storm is wild, and you are safe below it, in the still green calm, watching, resting, untroubled, held. And then, as all storms do, this one begins to pass. The fury at the surface slowly eases, the wind drops, the rain thins and softens and finally ceases. The churning ceiling smooths, little by little, from a wild grey chop back toward a gentle roll, and the dark clouds far above begin to break and thin, and here and there a shaft of returning light breaks through and slants down into the green, the first gold returning to the dimmed water. The storm spends itself, as storms always do, and the sea begins, gently, to grow calm again from the top down, the peace of the deep rising slowly to meet the clearing surface. The great lizard feels the change and begins, in its own unhurried time, to rise again, back up through the calming green toward the brightening skin of the sea. There is no rush in it. The storm is passing, not past, and the mosasaur waits until the waiting is easy, until the surface has truly smoothed, before it climbs the last way up to break the gentling ceiling and breathe the rain-washed air. And the air it breathes, when it surfaces at last, is the cleanest and freshest air of all the day. The air just after a storm, cool and damp and new, the whole sky scrubbed clean, and the late gold of the clearing evening, spilling across the settling sea. Rise with the great lizard, gently, into the calming water, and feel the peace returning to the whole sea. The light comes back, soft and gold, slanting down through the clearing green, the surface smooths to a gentle roll. The rain-freshened calm spreads downward through the water, layer by layer, and the whole sea seems to let out a long, slow breath, settling back into its deep, ordinary peace after the brief wild weather. The storm has passed. It always passes, and the sea is calmer now somehow, for having weathered it, cleaner and clearer and more at rest than before, the way a mind is calmer after a hard thing is over and safely behind it. There is a particular sweetness to the calm that comes just after a storm, and you may feel it now, drifting in the rain-washed water as the late gold returns. It is a calm with relief in it, a calm that knows what it is to have been troubled and to be troubled no longer, and it is, perhaps, the deepest calm the sea ever offers. The storm has gone. The danger, such as it was, has passed harmlessly overhead. And now there is only the soft gold light and the gentle roll of the settling swell and the great calm lizard hanging easy beside you in the clearing green, and the whole sea breathing slow, at peace, washed clean, at rest. Let yourself rest in that after-storm calm, and let it teach you its quiet lesson one more time as you drift towards sleep. The storms of the surface are real, but they are brief, and they cannot reach the deep, and they always, always pass. There is no storm in your own life or in the whole wide world that does not, in time, spend itself and pass, leaving the deep untouched and the calm returning, gold and gentle, from the top down. You need not fear the weather. You need only sink, as the wise lizard sinks to the still green place below the churning skin, and wait, in peace, for the passing that always comes. The light is the soft late gold of a cleared evening now, slanting down through the calm green water, and the great lizard hangs beside you in it, easy and at rest, the storm forgotten as though it had never been. The sea is still again, deeply still, the swell rolling slow and gentle beneath the gold-touched ceiling. The day's one wild thing has passed, harmlessly, far overhead, and now there is only the clean calm after, the gold light and the gentle water and the slow breathing of the sea at peace. Breathe in slowly, with the lifting swell. Breathe out more slowly still, and rest now in the deep calm below all storms, in the still green heart of the sea, where the weather never reaches and the peace is always, always returning. Stay a while with this gentlest of lessons, that however the surface storms, the deep stays calm, for there is no truth in all the sea more comforting to carry towards sleep. Far above, the wind may drive the surface into white and tumbling waves, and the bright skin of the sea may heave and break and roar, but the storm lives only at the very top, in the thinnest skin of the water, and it cannot reach down. A little way below the tossing surface the sea grows quiet. A little further, it is calm. And down in the green deep where the great lizard waits it out, there is no storm at all, only the long, even stillness, undisturbed, as though the wild surface were a world away. The storm cannot follow you down. Remember that, as you sink. Whatever storms above, the deep stays calm, and you are sinking into the deep. Picture the great lizard, then, sinking quietly below the storm, and let its wisdom be your own. It does not fight the heaving surface. It does not struggle against the wild water. When the storm comes, the great lizard simply tilts downward and lets itself sink, slowly, out of the tossing brightness into the calm green deep, where it hangs, easy and untroubled, while the storm spends itself far above. It has learned the deep secret of the sea, that the way through a storm is not to fight it but to sink beneath it, down to where the water is always calm. You may learn the same secret now. Whatever troubles tossed at the surface of your day, you need not fight them. You need only sink, slowly, below them, into the calm deep of sleep, and let them spend themselves far above while you rest, untroubled, in the still green, and dwell on how the storm always passed, for it always did, and the passing is part of the peace. No storm lasted. The wind blew itself out, in time, and the wild surface settled, slowly, and the white tumbling waves sank back into the long gentle swell, and the bright calm skin of the sea returned, as it always returned. The great lizard, waiting easy in the deep, felt the water above grow quiet again, and rose, slowly, in its own unhurried time, into a surface washed clean and calm and golden in the after-storm light. The storm was only ever a passing thing, a brief wildness on the skin of a patient sea, and the calm was the truth beneath it, waiting, always to return. Let that ease you. Whatever storms it passes, and the calm beneath was always the deeper truth. So let the storm rage itself out far above, small and brief and harmless, while you rest in the deep calm where it cannot reach. You have sunk below it now, into the long, even stillness of the green deep, and here there is no wind and no wild water, only the quiet, only the warmth, only the slow and patient calm that the storm can never touch. Far above, the surface settles, slowly, back toward gold. But you need not rise to meet it. You may stay here, in the deep, in the stillness, in the calm that was always the truest thing about the sea, and let it hold you while the last of the storm blows gently away. Breathe in slowly, breathe out more slowly still, and rest in the deep calm beneath all storms, untroubled and held, all the way down into sleep. Let us rise, just once, gently, into the after-storm light, for it is one of the loveliest things the warm sea ever offered, and a fitting image to hold as you drift. When the storm had blown itself out and the wild surface had settled back into the long, easy swell, the great lizard would rise, slowly, in its own unhurried time, up through the calming green toward a surface transformed. The grey wildness was gone, the wind had fallen still, and the bright skin of the sea lay washed and clean and golden, lit low by a soft sun breaking through the parting cloud, the water gilded and gentle and utterly at peace. To break that golden surface after the storm and take a slow, sweet breath of the washed clean air was to feel the deep relief of calm returned. Let yourself feel it now, that soft golden peace after every storm, and breathe it slowly in. Dwell on how clean the world feels after a storm has passed. How new, how quiet. The storm carries away with it all the heaviness of the air, and what it leaves behind is freshness, lightness, a washed and gentle stillness that feels like the very first morning of the world. The light comes soft and golden, the water lies smooth and easy. The creatures of the sea, who sheltered in the deep, rise slowly back into the calm, bright water, and the whole warm ocean settles into a peace deeper than the peace before the storm, the particular sweet peace that only comes when something hard has passed and gentleness has returned. Let that washed and golden calm settle over you now, the deep, soft peace that follows every storm, fresh and quiet and new, and carry this gently into your rest, that the calm always comes again, always, after every storm. This is the deepest promise of the sea, written into its long and patient rhythm. However wild the surface, the deep stays calm, and however long the storm, it passes, and the golden quiet always, always returns. The great lizard knew this in its slow and ancient way, and so it never feared the storm, only sank below it and waited, knowing the calm would come. You may know it too, and rest in the knowing. Whatever storms have crossed your day, they pass, and the calm returns, soft and golden and sure, as it has returned to the sea 10,000 times across the ages. Breathe in slowly, in the washed clean air, breathe out more slowly still, and rest in the golden after-storm calm, certain and gentle and complete all the way down into sleep. Let us drift now beyond a single evening, beyond a single storm, and feel the slow turn of the whole world, the great changes that move across the sea so gently that no creature in it ever notices them at all. For the warm sea is not fixed and changeless. It is always slowly turning, the way a long afternoon slowly turns toward evening, and in the latest part of the Cretaceous, the age in which we have been drifting, the world had begun, very quietly, to turn toward something new. There is nothing alarming in this. It is only the way of things. But it is worth feeling, gently, the slow turn of the world beneath the calm of the sea. The first of the slow changes was in the sea itself, in its very height. For a long age the warm waters had stood high over the land, flooding the low places, drowning the middles of the continents, making the wide, shallow seas in which the great lizards swam. But seas do not stand at one height forever. Slowly, across the long span of the latest Cretaceous, the waters had begun, here and there, to draw back, to lower, to retreat from the drowned lands they had so long covered. It happened too slowly for any creature to see, a falling of the sea measured across ages. But it happened, and as it happened the great inland sea grew, very gradually, shallower and smaller than it had been. Imagine that slow retreat, gently, across the long ages. The wide, flooded plain that had been all warm, shallow water for so long began, at its edges, to drain. The drowned middles of the continents began, slowly, to rise back into the air. The great inland corridor of sea, that long arm of water that had cut a continent in two, began to narrow and to part, until in time it would close, and the two halves of the continent would rejoin, and the sea that had run between them would be gone. None of this happened in a season, or a lifetime, or 1,000 lifetimes. But across the long turn of the ages, it happened, and the world of warm, shallow seas in which the mosasaurs had flourished began, slowly, to pass. For the great lizards, this slow retreat of the sea meant a slow narrowing of their world. The wide, warm shallows that had been their kingdom grew, age by age, a little less wide, a little less generous. There was still sea, still warm and full and good, but there was less of it than there had been, and the long, slow trend was toward less still. The mosasaurs did not know this, of course. Each one lived its own life in the sea that surrounded it, full and warm and sufficient, and felt no narrowing at all. The narrowing was visible only across the ages, only from the great height of deep time, only to us, drifting here, who can see what no creature in the sea could ever see. There were other slow turnings too, harder to name, in the deep machinery of the world. The warm, even climate of the long Cretaceous had begun, very gradually, to grow less even, to cool a little here, to shift a little there, the great steady warmth of the age beginning, in its slow way, to waver. The seasons perhaps grew a touch more marked, the differences between the times of the year a little sharper than they had been in the long unchanging warmth of the age's height. These were small changes, slow changes, changes spread so thin across the ages that no creature could feel them. But they were there, the first faint stirrings of a world preparing, without knowing it, to turn over into something new. And yet, and this is the gentle heart of it, the sea in any single moment remained as calm and full and warm as ever. This is the strange grace of slow change, that it never disturbs the present. The mosasaur hanging in the green water on any given evening of the latest Cretaceous felt nothing of the slow retreat of the sea or the slow waver of the climate. Its water was warm, its food was plentiful, its world was whole. The slow turning of the age moved beneath all of that, too slow to feel, and the creatures lived their full, calm lives entirely untroubled by it, exactly as we live our own full lives untroubled by the slow turnings of our own age, which our distant descendants may one day see as clearly as we see these. There is a deep comfort in this, if you let yourself feel it as you drift towards sleep. The great changes of the world are slow, so slow that they never spoil a single evening, never trouble a single life, never reach into the calm of any present moment. They move beneath everything, patient and vast, but the surface of life stays whole and warm and full, day by day, evening by evening, for every creature living in it. The mosasaur was never robbed of a single calm hour by the slow turning of its age. It lived every hour it had fully, in a whole and warm and sufficient sea, and the slow change of the world waited, patiently, far beyond the edge of anything it could feel, drift through those late ages now, gently, and watch the great lizards live their full calm lives in a slowly narrowing world. They hunt and rest and rise, to breathe and sink to the floor exactly as their kind always have. They bring their young into the warm nursery shallows exactly as their kind always have. They ride out the storms in the calm deep exactly as their kind always have. The slow retreat of the sea takes nothing from any of this. Each generation finds its sea warm and full and sufficient, and lives its life completely, and passes the great calm of the mosasaur on to the next, and the next, down through the late ages, the slow turning of the world moving far beneath them, unfelt, unfeared, unknown. It is worth pausing on how long this went on, this full calm life in the slowly turning world, for it went on a very long time. The latest Cretaceous was not a brief moment. It was an age in itself, span upon span of years, generation upon generation of great lizards living their full lives in the warm sea. The slow changes we have spoken of, the retreat of the waters, the waver of the climate, unfolded across all of that long age, so slowly that whole dynasties of mosasaurs lived and flourished and passed, without any of them feeling the slightest narrowing of their world. The slow turn of the world is measured in spans that dwarf the longest life, and within those spans there is room for an ocean of calm and ordinary days. And so, when we speak of the slow turn of the world, we are not speaking of an alarm or a doom or a shadow falling across the sea. We are speaking only of the great, patient changefulness of things, the way that even the most stable and warm and lasting world is, very slowly, always becoming something else. There is no grief in it, drifting here in the calm green. It is only the truth of the world, that nothing stays exactly itself forever, that even the warm Cretaceous sea that had held the great lizards for an age was slowly, gently, across spans beyond imagining, turning toward its own ending, as all ages do, as all things do, without haste and without cruelty. Let yourself rest in that truth without fearing it, the way the great lizard rests in its warm sea without fearing the slow retreat of the waters. The world turns slowly. All worlds turn slowly. The age you yourself live in is turning slowly too, beneath everything, too slow to feel, towards something neither you nor anyone can see. And yet your own evening, your own present calm hour, is whole and warm and sufficient, exactly as the mosasaurs was, untouched by any of the slow turning beneath it. The slow change of the world is real, but it is not your enemy, and it will not spoil this hour. This hour is yours, whole and warm, exactly as every calm hour of the great lizard's life was the lizard's, whole and warm and complete. The light dims toward evening once more in the slowly turning world, as it has dimmed across every evening of every age, and the great lizards settle into their nightly stillness in the warm green water, untroubled, at peace. The slow retreat of the sea waits, far beyond the edge of the evening. The slow waver of the climate waits, far beyond the edge of the night. And within the evening, within the night, the creatures rest fully and calmly, held by a sea still warm, still full, still entirely sufficient, exactly as it has held them across all the long ages. There is nothing to fear in the dusk. There is only the same gentle settling toward rest that the sea has always offered, evening upon evening, age upon age. And yet, drifting here at the edge of these latest ages, you may feel, very faintly, a kind of tenderness gathering, a softness toward this warm and ancient world, precisely because you know, as the creatures cannot, that it is slowly turning toward its end. It is the tenderness one feels toward a long, warm afternoon as it leans, at last, toward evening, a tenderness with no grief in it, only a deep, gentle gratitude for the warmth while it lasts. The mosasaurs lived in the long, warm afternoon of their world, and they lived it fully. And we, drifting here, you may feel for them, and for their warm sea a tenderness all the deeper, for knowing how the afternoon would, in time, gently end. But the end is not yet, not for a long while yet, and there are still warm evenings without number ahead in the slowly turning world. So let the tenderness be soft, and let it carry no fear, and let it only deepen your rest. The great lizards settle into the warm green dusk, whole and calm and sufficient, with the slow turn of the world moving far beneath them, unfelt and unfeared. And you settle with them, held by the same warm water, gathered into the same gentle dark. Breathe in slowly, breathe out more slowly still, and rest now in the long warm afternoon of the ancient sea, in one of its countless calm and sufficient evenings, while the world turns slowly, patiently, far beneath the peace of the present hour. Rest a while in this gentlest of truths, that the world changes only slowly, and that each present hour stays whole however the long ages turn. The great changes of the world, the rising and falling of seas, the slow wandering of the land, the long warming and cooling of the air, all of these moved so slowly that no creature of the warm sea could ever feel them. Within any single life the sea was simply the sea, warm and full and unchanging, exactly as it had always been. The slow turning belonged to the ages, not to the days, and the days stayed whole and warm and good, no matter how the ages turned. There is deep peace in that. Tonight is whole, this hour is whole. Whatever vast slow changes turn in the wider world, they do not touch the warm and gentle present that holds you now, and you may rest in it completely. Think of the great seaway itself, slowly drawing back across the long ages, and yet how gently, how imperceptibly, that drawing back unfolded, Across spans of time too long to feel, the warm, shallow sea grew, here and there, a little shallower, the far edges easing slowly back toward becoming land. But within the sea, day by day, nothing seemed to change at all. The water was still warm, the light still came down green and gentle. The great lizards still rose to breathe, and sank to rest exactly as they always had. The slow retreat of the sea was real, but it was the business of the ages, invisible within a life, and the life went on, warm and whole, untroubled by the vast, slow turning beneath it. Let that ease any worry in you. The largest changes move so slowly that the present stays gentle, and the present is where you live and where you rest. And dwell, softly, on the deep constancy beneath all the slow turning, the things that did not change however the ages moved. The sun still rose and crossed the sky and set, and the warm light still came down through the green. The tide still gathered and let go, in its long, even rhythm. The slow snow still drifted down toward the patient floor. Beneath all the vast, slow changes of the turning world, these gentle constancies held, steady and faithful, the deep, reliable rhythms that no age could hurry or undo. There is great comfort in them, these things that simply continue, and you may rest your weight on them now. The breath comes and goes, the tide gathers and lets go, the light rises and falls. Beneath all change, these gentle rhythms hold, and they are holding you tonight. So let the world turn, slowly, far beneath your rest, and let it carry no worry into your night. The great slow changes are the business of the ages, and the ages are patient, and nothing they do can reach into this warm and gentle hour to trouble it. Here, now, the sea is warm, the light is soft, the great lizards drift easy in the green, and you drift with them, held in the whole and gentle present, while the vast slow world turns on far below, in no hurry, asking nothing of you. There is nothing you must do about the turning of the world. You may simply rest within the present hour, warm and whole and complete, and let the long, slow ages turn themselves while you sink towards sleep. Breathe in slowly. Breathe out more slowly still. And let the gentle present hold you, whole and warm, while the world turns slowly on toward morning. Let the slow turning of the world become, at the very last, a kind of lullaby, the oldest and gentlest there is. The seas rise and draw back. The lands drift slowly to new places. The long warmth gathers and eases across the ages, slow as the deepest breathing. It is all one vast, unhurried rhythm, the breathing of the world itself, in and out across spans of time, too long to feel. And there is nothing in it anywhere that you need to hold or hurry or fear. You may simply rest inside its slow, great rhythm, carried by it as the warm sea carried all its creatures, breathing softly in time with the breathing world. Breathe in slowly, as the world breathes in. Breathe out more slowly still, as the world breathes out, and let the slow turn of everything rock you, gently, like the largest and kindest of cradles, down into sleep. We come now, gently, to the ending of the great lizard's world, and we will tell it softly, the way the whole of this night has been told, with no alarm in it and no fear. For though the ending of the age of reptiles was, in the wider world, a vast and sudden thing, here in the deep warm sea it arrived slowly, as a dimming and a cooling and a long quiet, like a tide going out and not coming back. There is sorrow in it, perhaps, but it is a soft sorrow, the kind that belongs to all endings, and it need not trouble your rest. Let us drift through the last warm season of the great sea lizards, slowly, and let it be peaceful. Far away, on the other side of the world, something happened that the creatures of this sea could never have seen or understood. A great visitor came down out of the sky, a stone from the deep dark between the worlds, and where it touched the earth it changed everything. But that touching was far away, across a whole ocean and more, and the great lizards in their warm, shallow sea knew nothing of it. They went on hunting and resting and rising to breathe exactly as they always had, on the day it happened and for some while after, in a sea that was, for now, still warm, still full, still entirely their own. The ending did not announce itself. It came on slowly from far away like weather gathering beyond the horizon. The first the sea knew of it was a dimming of the light. Slowly, across days, the bright gold of the surface began to fade, not as it fades at evening, to return again at dawn. but steadily, persistently, as though a great soft veil were being drawn across the sun. The far visitor had thrown a vast cloud high into the sky, a cloud that spread, in time, around the whole world, and through that cloud the sunlight came thinner and dimmer and greyer than before. In the warm sea, the green water slowly darkened, the bright surface skin grew dim, the columns of light that had come down so generously through all the long ages grew faint and fainter, and the sea began, very gently, to cool. The great lizards felt the cooling and the dimming, but they did not understand it, and they did not fear it, for they had no way to know it was anything more than a long, strange dusk. They went on as they always had, hunting in the dimming water, rising to breathe the dimming air, sinking to rest on the pale floor. But the dimming did not lift, the veil did not draw back. Day after day the light stayed thin and grey, and the sea grew slowly cooler, and the warmth that had been the mother of everything in this ocean began, gently, to ebb away like a tide going out across a wide flat shore, slowly, quietly, and not turning back. And as the light dimmed, the smallest creatures, the tiny drifting motes that filled the bright water and fed on the sunlight, began to fade. They had always lived on the light, the whole great pasture of the sea, and now the light was failing, and so they failed too. Slowly, their countless numbers thinning in the dimming water. It was the quietest of all the changes, the fading of the smallest creatures, too small to see even when they thrived, and now too few to cloud the water as they once had. But it was the deepest change of all, for the whole sea stood upon those tiny lives, and as they faded, the great slow web of the ocean began, gently, to loosen, from the bottom up. You will remember how the warmth of the sun passed upward through the sea, from the smallest creatures to the larger and the larger still, until it reached the great lizards at the top. Now that long ladder of warmth began, quietly, to come apart. As the smallest creatures faded, the small swimmers that fed on them grew fewer, and as the small swimmers grew fewer, the larger fish that fed on them grew fewer in their turn, and the slow loosening climbed, gently, up through the whole web of the sea, season by dimming season, toward the great lizards at the top. It was not sudden, it was not violent. It was only a slow, quiet thinning, a tide of fullness going gently out, leaving the sea emptier than it had been, evening by dimming evening. Through all of this, the great lizards endured a long while, for they were strong, and the sea, even thinning, still held food for them for a time. But the warm, full ocean that had made them and fed them and held them across all the long ages was slowly becoming a cooler, dimmer, emptier sea, and the great lizards, who had been so perfectly fitted to the warm, full ocean, found that world slipping, gently, out from under them. There was less to hunt. The warmth that their great bodies needed ebbed away. The bright nurseries of the surface dimmed and cooled, and the mosasaurs, the unchallenged lords of the warm sea, began, slowly, quietly, like everything else, to fade. Let us tell this fading gently, for it deserves gentleness. The great lizards did not end in terror or in agony. They ended the way a long warm afternoon ends, by slow degrees, by a gradual dimming and cooling and quieting, each generation finding the sea a little cooler and a little emptier than the last, until at length there were fewer mosasaurs in the dimming water, and then fewer still, and then, in time, across the slow seasons of the ending, none. It was not a catastrophe in any single moment. For any single lizard, it was only a life lived in a slowly dimming sea, a life still whole, still its own, lived out to its natural close in the cooling water. The catastrophe was visible only across the seasons, only from the great height of deep time, only to us. Drift through those last dimming seasons, gently, and watch the great sea grow quiet. The bright pasture of tiny creatures has faded from the water. The schools of small fish have thinned. The turning ammonites grow fewer in the dim green. The long-necked swimmers rarer. The great turtles scarcer. One by one, the wonders we have drifted among across this long night grow quiet and few in the cooling water. And the great lizards grow quiet too, fewer and fewer in the dimming sea, until the warm, full ocean that had teemed with life from top to bottom across all the long ages has become a still and shadowed and nearly empty sea, holding its breath in the long grey dusk. And then, At last, the great lizards are gone. Not in a moment, not in a single ending, but at the close of all those slow dimming seasons, the last of them comes down, in its own time, to the soft pale floor, and settles there, and is still, and the gentle snow of the few remaining tiny creatures drifts down over it, slowly, faithfully, covering it, holding it, keeping it in the deepening white. The reign of the great sea lizards, which had lasted across an age, comes quietly to its close on the floor of the cooling sea, and the warm, full ocean that made them holds their bones in the pale stone, as it had always held the bones of all its creatures, gently, patiently, forever. There is a soft sorrow in this, and it is right to feel it, drifting here at the ending of so much warmth and wonder. The great lizards were beautiful, and their warm sea was beautiful, and both are gone now, faded into the long grey dusk and down at last to the patient floor. But let the sorrow be soft, for there is comfort folded inside it. The great lizards lived fully, across an age, in a warm and generous sea. They knew the bright surface and the dim floor, and all the layered green between. They hunted and rested and rode out their storms, and brought their young into the warm shallows, generation upon generation, for spans of time beyond imagining. They had their long, warm afternoon, and they lived every hour of it. And now they rest, held by the same sea that made them, on the patient floor, in the deepening white. That is not a tragedy. That is a life, and an ending, and a rest, and there is peace in it, and nothing, truly, was lost. This is the deepest comfort of all, and you may carry it into sleep. The bones of the great lizards lay down in the pale floor, and the floor kept them, across all the long ages that followed, holding them safe in the deepening stone through 100 million turnings of the world. They did not vanish. They only went down to rest, and the sea remembered them, in the language of pale stone, faithfully, patiently, waiting through the long ages for a day when they would be found again, and known. The ending of the great lizards was not an erasing. It was only a long, long sleep, in the soft white floor of the sea that had always held them, a sleep from which, in a strange way, they would one day be gently woken, for the story does not end on the floor of the cooling sea. It only pauses there, for 100 million years and more, while the world turns over and over, while the cooling sea draws back at last from the land, while the pale floor hardens fully into stone and rises, slowly, up out of the vanished water to become dry hills under a new and different sky. The bones of the great lizards rise with it, held all the while in the pale stone, sleeping through age upon age, waiting, patient as the floor that holds them, for the day, far off, when a new kind of creature, curious and gentle, would come at last and find them. We will tell that finding before the night is through. It is a quiet and happy ending, and the great lizards have earned it. But for now, let the last warm season close gently around you, and let it carry no fear into your rest. The light dims, softly, to the long grey dusk of the ending, and the great lizards settle, one last time, into the cooling green, and then down, in their own slow time, to the patient floor, to the deepening white, to the long sleep that is not an erasing, but only a rest and a remembering. There is sorrow in it, soft sorrow, the sorrow that belongs to all endings, but there is peace in it too, deep peace, the peace of a full life fully lived and gently closed. Breathe in slowly, breathe out more slowly still, and let the last warm season hold you, soft and grey and quiet, as the great lizards go down at last to their long rest in the floor of the ancient sea. Stay a while in the gentleness of this ending, drifting, for it asks nothing of you but to be felt softly. The great lizards did not know that anything was ending. That is perhaps the tenderest part of it, and the most peaceful. To them, each day was simply a day, warm and green and ordinary, a day for rising to breathe and sinking to rest, a day like all the days that had come before. They lived each of those dimming days whole, in the only way any creature can live, one breath and one slow hour at a time, untroubled by the great slow ending gathering so far beyond their knowing. There is no sorrow in a life lived that way, moment by gentle moment, whatever waits beyond it, and so you may let go of sorrow too, and simply feel the soft ordinary peace of those last warm days, each one whole, each one enough. Think of the great lizard on one of those last dimming evenings, rising slowly through the cooling green to take its breath at the fading surface, exactly as its kind had always done across all the long ages. The light is thinner now, and the water a little cooler, but the breath is still sweet, and the warmth still holds, and the slow rhythm of the rising and the sinking is unchanged, faithful to the last. There is something deeply peaceful in that faithfulness, the great unhurried rhythm continuing gently even at the close, the breath still coming, the body still rising and settling in its ancient easy way. Let your own breath join that faithful rhythm now, the slow rise and the slower fall, unchanged and unhurried, carrying you gently onward even as the long night draws toward its close. And rest in this softest comfort of all, that the ending, when it came as a kind of sleep, and sleep is nothing to fear. The great lizards did not vanish into nothing. They sank, slowly, as they had always sunk, down through the cooling green toward the soft pale floor, and they settled there, and were still, and the gentle snow drifted down over them, and they were held, and kept, in the deepening white. It was the same sinking and the same settling and the same gentle keeping that the floor had always offered to all its creatures. Only now it was a longer rest, and a deeper one, and one from which they would not rise to breathe again. But it was rest, true rest, soft and complete and held, and there is no fear in rest. There is only the letting go, and the sinking, and the being kept. And now we come to the gentle ending that the great lizards earned, the quiet waking at the close of their long sleep, and you may follow it drowsily, for it asks nothing of you but to drift. We have watched the warm sea fade and the great lizards go down at last to the soft pale floor, and we have seen the floor harden, slowly into white stone, and rise, slowly, up out of the vanished water to become dry hills under a different sky. The bones slept all the while in the pale rock, patient and undisturbed, through age upon age upon age, more time than the mind can hold. And then, after all that long waiting, a new kind of creature came walking over those dry white hills, and the long sleep of the great lizards came very gently to its waking. The place where they woke lies in the low countries of the world, in a green and gentle land of slow rivers and soft weather, where a wide, quiet river called the Meuse winds down through low hills toward the sea. And the hills there are made, many of them, of that same pale stone we watched forming on the floor of the ancient sea, the soft white rock that the tiny falling creatures built up, grain by grain, across the long ages. The people of that land had no name for what the stone was made of, and no notion of the warm sea that had laid it down, but they knew the stone itself well, for it was soft and pale and easy to cut, and they had been quarrying it out of the hills for their houses and their churches for longer than anyone could remember. Drift now to one of those quarries, on a hillside above the winding river, in a time still long ago by the measure of human years, though only a breath ago by the measure of the stone. Imagine the pale galleries cut deep into the hill, the soft white walls, the men working slowly in the dim cool air with their picks and their lamps, cutting the gentle stone block by block from the place where the sea had laid it down. It is quiet work, in a quiet place, and the men have done it all their lives, as their fathers did before them, never knowing what slept in the white rock around them, never dreaming that the soft pale stone was the floor of a vanished ocean, and that the bones of its lords lay waiting, here and there, deep in the patient white. And then, one day, in the dim cool gallery, a pick strikes something that is not stone. The men gather, and they clear the soft rock away, slowly, carefully, with the patience that the work has taught them, and out of the white wall there emerges, little by little, a thing that stops their hands and holds their eyes. It is a skull, a great long jawbone set with rows of strong conical teeth, far larger than the jaw of any creature they have ever known, longer than a man is tall, locked in the pale stone, where it has slept for so unimaginably long. They do not know what it is. They cannot know. But they know that it is wonderful and strange, and old beyond their reckoning, and they free it from the white rock with great care, and they carry it, gently, up out of the hill and into the light of their own day. Let yourself rest in the wonder of that moment, drifting, as the great jaw comes up out of the dark gallery into the soft grey light of the low countries after its long, long sleep. Think of all the time folded into that single moment, the whole vast age between the warm sea and the quarry, the 100 million years and more during which that jaw lay still in the deepening stone, while the sea drew back and the floor rose and the world turned over countless times above it. And now, in a quiet instant on a green hillside, a creature of a wholly new kind, curious and careful and gentle, holds the great lizard's jaw in its hands and looks at it with wondering eyes. The sleeper has been woken. The long patience of the stone has, at last, been answered. The wise people of that age looked at the great jaw and were puzzled by it, gently and happily puzzled, the way a good mind is puzzled by a fine new mystery. What manner of creature had owned so vast a jaw, set with so many strong teeth here in the pale stone of these quiet hills? Some thought it might be a great fish, some a creature like the long sea things that sailors spoke of, some a beast unlike anything still living in the world. They studied it, and turned it in the light, and argued over it softly, as careful minds will, each trying to fit the strange, wonderful thing into the shape of the world as they understood it. And slowly, across the years, by the patient work of many thoughtful people, the truth of it began, gently, to come clear. There was a thoughtful man of those low countries, a studier of living bodies and how they are made, and he looked long at the great jaw, and saw in it something of the lizard, something of the kindred of the living reptiles, though vaster by far than any lizard that still walked the earth. And later, in time, another careful mind, a great studier of old bones in a city not so far away, looked at the same great jaw and saw the matter whole. Here, he understood, was the jaw of a giant lizard, but a lizard of the sea, a great swimming reptile from a vanished world, a creature of an age long before the age of people, when the warm seas had been ruled by lizards grown vast and strange. He gave the world the understanding we have carried ever since, that this was a sea dragon out of deep time, kindred to the lizards yet wholly of the water, a lord of an ocean that no human eye had ever seen. And because the great jaw had come up out of the pale hills above the winding river, the people gave the creature a name drawn from that quiet river itself. The river was the Meuse, and so they called the creature the lizard of the Meuse, the great reptile of that gentle water, and that name, softened and shaped by the old tongue of the studiers, became the name we still use for the whole kindred of these creatures to this day. So it is that the name itself, the word we have spoken so often through this long night, carries within it the memory of a low green land, and a slow pale river, and a soft white hill where the first of these great lizards was lifted, gently, out of its long stone sleep. The name is a small monument to that quiet waking, worn smooth now by long use, but holding still, deep inside it, the river and the hill, rest in the gentleness of how it all came round. The great lizard had gone down, an unimaginable span before, to the soft floor of the warm sea, and the floor had kept it, faithfully, in the deepening white, exactly as the floor kept all its creatures, asking nothing, promising nothing, only holding. And the holding, which had seemed at the ending of the warm sea like a kind of forgetting, turned out to be a keeping after all, a long patient keeping against a day no creature of that sea could have imagined, the day when a new mind would come and find the sleeper and know it, and give it a name and a place in the great story of the world. The floor remembered. It remembered across 100 million years and more, and at the last it gave its memory up, gently, into waiting human hands. And from that first great jaw, lifted out of the pale hills above the river, the knowledge of these creatures grew and spread, slowly, across the years that followed. For once people knew what to look for, they began to find the great lizards in the pale stone of many lands, wherever the floors of those vanished warm seas had hardened and risen into the light. Jaw by jaw, paddle by paddle, the long bodies came up out of the rock, the small ones and the middling ones and the very great ones, the round-toothed shell-crushers and the deep-water giants, the whole vast kindred we have drifted among through this long night, each of them lifted, gently, out of its own long stone sleep, each of them adding a little more to the picture of the warm sea and its lords. The single sleeper of the pale hills had become a doorway, and through it the whole vanished ocean came slowly back into the light of human knowing. It is a strange and beautiful thing, drifting here at the close of the night, to think that we know the warm sea at all. The sea itself is gone, drawn back and dried away ages past. The warm, shallow water, the bright surface skin, the layered green, the soft, pale floor, all of it vanished so long ago that the very continents have wandered since to new places under the sky. And yet we know it. We have drifted through it all night long, through its light and its dark, its drifting ammonites and its long-necked swimmers, its nurseries and its storms, its lords rising slow to breathe, and we know it only because the floor remembered, and because, in a quiet quarry on a green hillside, a pick struck something that was not stone, and a new kind of creature lifted the old sleeper, gently, into the light. So the great lizards were not lost after all. Not truly, not in the end. They went down into the long sleep of the stone, and they slept the unimaginable sleep of the deep ages, and then they were woken, gently, and known, and named, and they came back into the world in a new way, not as living creatures in a warm sea, but as a story, a wonder, a memory carried now in human minds, instead of in pale stone. They swim again, in a sense, in every imagining of them, in every gentle telling of the warm sea and its lords. They have been given a kind of second life, quieter than the first, made not of muscle and warm blood, but of knowledge and wonder, and it is a life that need never end, for it is passed on, gently, from mind to mind, the way this night has passed it on to you, and that at the last is the gentlest comfort of the whole long night, and you may carry it down with you into sleep. Nothing that was truly beautiful in the warm sea was lost. It went down into the patient floor, and the floor kept it, and gave it up again at the right and proper time, into hands and minds ready to receive it. The great lizards sleep still, most of them, in the pale stone of the risen seafloors, waiting in their quiet way for the curious and gentle creatures who will, one day, lift them softly into the light. There is no sorrow in that waiting. It is only rest, patient and complete, in the soft white keeping of the ancient sea, exactly the rest toward which this whole long night has been gently carrying you. So let the quarry grow quiet, and the great jaw rest now in its place of honour, lifted and known and at peace. Let the low green land and the slow pale river fade softly into the dark. The great lizards are woken and named and remembered, and their warm sea lives on gently in the telling, and there is nothing left now to do but rest. Breathe in slowly, breathe out more slowly still. The long story is nearly told, and all of it, from the warm sea to the pale hill, has come round at last to stillness and to peace. Let it hold you, soft and complete, as the night draws gently toward its close. Rest a while longer in the quiet wonder of that waking drifting, for there is no haste now, and the story has all the gentleness it needs. Think of the long, long patience of the bones in the pale stone, waiting through age upon age beyond any reckoning, asking nothing, knowing nothing, simply held in the deepening white, while the world turned over countless times above them. They did not wait the way a creature waits, with longing or with weariness. They waited the way the stone waits, without time, without trouble, in a rest so deep and complete that the 100 million years passed over them as gently as a single quiet night passes over you. And then, at the right and proper moment, the waiting ended, softly, and the long sleeper came up into the light. There is deep peace in a waiting like that, a waiting with no anxiousness in it, and you may carry that peace down into your own night's rest. Think, too, of the gentleness of the hands that lifted the great jaw from the pale wall, the care with which the quiet workers freed it from the stone. They did not know what they had found, but they knew it was precious, and they handled it tenderly, clearing the soft rock away grain by grain, lifting the long sleeper carefully up out of the dark gallery and into the light of their own day. There is something quietly moving in that care, the gentleness of one kind of creature toward the ancient remains of another, across so unimaginable a gulf of time. The warm sea was gone, and its lords were long vanished, and yet here, at the last, they were met with tenderness, lifted gently, treated as a wonder. Let that gentleness ease you. The long sleeper was woken kindly, by careful hands, and welcomed gently into a new and curious world, and dwell, softly, on the quiet circle that the whole long night has drawn, for it comes round now to its gentle close. The great lizard rose, across the long ages, out of the land and into the warm sea, and lived its full reign there, and sank at last to the patient floor, and was kept in the deepening white, and rose again, after age upon age, into human hands and human wonder, to swim once more in the telling. From the warm sea to the pale hill and round at last to rest, the whole great circle is drawn, and there is nothing left unfinished in it, nothing left wanting, only the quiet completeness of a story carried gently all the way to its end. You have followed it the whole way round tonight, and now you may set it down, complete, and rest. The circle is closed, the long sleeper is at peace. And so, now may you be. And so we come, gently, to the end of our long night beneath the surface, and there is nothing left to do now but rest. You have drifted through a whole vanished world tonight, through the warm, shallow sea and all its quiet wonders, and you have followed the great lizards from their first slow rising to their long sleep in the pale stone, and now you may let all of it go, softly, and simply rest. There is no more to remember, no more to follow, no more to do. The night has carried you where it meant to carry you, all the way down to this last quiet shore, and here you may set everything down. Let the warm sea close over you now, gently, one last time, not to wake you, but to hold you. Feel yourself drifting in the soft green water, weightless and easy, with the bright surface far above and the soft pale floor far below, and you suspended in the warm still middle of it all, rocked by the slow breathing of the tide. There is nothing to fear in this water. It is the gentlest sea that ever was, warm and shallow and full of quiet life, and it holds you the way it held all its creatures, without effort, without asking, simply holding while you sink, slowly towards sleep. Let your breathing slow to the slow rhythm of that ancient sea. Breathe in slowly, like the long swell rising. Breathe out more slowly still, like the swell settling back, and again the slow breath in, like the tide gathering, and the slower breath out, like the tide letting go. There is no hurry anywhere in this water. There never was. The great lizards moved through it slowly, and rested often, and rose to breathe in their own unhurried time, and you may do the same now, slower and slower, sinking gently with each long breath toward the soft floor of sleep. Let the wonders of the night drift past you one last time, dim and soft and far away now, asking nothing of you. The turning ammonites in the green light, the long-necked swimmers passing like slow clouds, the great turtles rowing by, the bright nursery shallows where the young were born, the pale floor far below with its gentle endless snow. Let them all drift past, softly, growing dimmer, the way the bright surface dims as you sink beneath it, until they fade altogether into the warm dark, and there is only the warmth, and the slow breath, and the gentle holding of the sea. You do not need to stay awake for any more of it. The story is told. The great lizards are at rest in their pale stone, and the warm sea lives on quietly in the telling, and you have heard it all, and now your only task is to let go, and sink, and sleep. So let the last of the light dim above you. Let the warm green water close softly over you. Let your thoughts grow slow and few and far between, like the last drifting motes settling gently to the floor. You are safe. You are held. You are exactly where the long night meant to leave you, here in the warm, still deep, sinking slowly into rest. Before you drift all the way down, here is one soft thing to wonder about as you fall asleep. If you could drift for one quiet hour through that warm ancient sea, what is the one thing you would most wish to see the great lizard rising slowly to breathe at the bright surface, the turning ammonites glinting in the green light, or the calm, shallow nurseries where the young were born into the warmth? Let me know in the comments whenever you wake, and I will read every answer. If you like this video, let me know where in the world you're watching from and what time it is. I'm always curious about that. And if you have a suggested topic, feel free to leave it in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel, as it really helps us continue making more content. Anyways, see you in the next one.